Su Jie's choice surprised Zhang Junwei, who had just been so excited and now appeared so calm. Su Jie, make sure you think this through. My offer isn't always on the table. Once this opportunity is missed, there won't be another, he emphasized, perhaps genuinely valuing Su Jie's talent. Thank you for your generous offer, Sect Master, but I prefer to remain with my master. Su Jie still chose to refuse, making Taoist Chiu very happy. His look became increasingly benevolent as he contentedly sipped his tea. Zhang Junwei fell silent for a few seconds, staring at Su Jie as if he could see through to a person's very soul. Suddenly, he added a new twist. Become my disciple, and I will give you 30,000 spirit stones at once, and an additional 1,000 spirit stones each month as a stipend. Su Jie's expression subtly changed as his heart began to beat faster. Taoist Chiu, who had been relaxed until now, almost sprayed out a mouthful of tea, furiously staring at Zhang Junwei for shamelessly throwing money around to compete for a disciple. Sect Master, aren't you afraid of being ridiculed for doing this? Taoist Chiu was furious, and had the person in front of him not been the Sect Master, he would have slapped him already. Tang Peiqing also felt speechless and said, Sect Master, what you are doing is really indecent. Zhang Junwei's expression remained unchanged as he spoke somberly. I have been a Sect Master for so many years and have taken only 2 direct disciples. One died unexpectedly early, and the other disappeared after reaching the secret realm. In my lifetime, the knowledge I've accumulated needs a disciple to carry on. Are you really willing to see me without even a successor to inherit my mantle? Taoist Chiu originally wanted to say he was indeed willing, but seeing Zhang Junwei's menacing look, he had to suppress his words, his dissatisfaction peaking as he resentfully regarded Zhang Junwei, a Sect Master who would stop at nothing to recruit a super genius. If he had known it would come to this, he wouldn't have let Su Jie perform so brilliantly. But Su Jie was a disciple he valued highly, strong, sensible, well-measured, and highly respectful of him, his master. There was no way he could let him go. Right away, Taoist Chiu put down his teacup and stood up, saying, Sect Master, since you've said as much, I, Taoist Chiu, am not without resources either. He is my disciple, and I care about him more than anyone else. It just so happens, Su Jie, didn't you suffer heavy losses on this mission? The insect cloud moths were greatly reduced, and the swords in your sword-nourishing gourd were completely exhausted. I'll give you 50,000 spirit stones. Go and replenish what you've lost. Buy a few more mid-grade flying swords so in future battles your swords don't always get chopped up, tarnishing my face. Su Jie's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, Disciple is grateful, Master. You needn't go to such lengths. But in his heart, Su Jie was screaming for the bidding to become even more intense. Now, Su Jie finally realized what it was like to be a high-achieving student at Blue Star, vied for by top schools. Zhang Junwei's mouth twitched at Taoist Chiu's guts to compete financially with him, the Sect Master. But indeed, Taoist Chiu's seniority was only slightly less than that of Tang Peiqing. He had been in the secret realm for many years and wasn't a newly promoted, impoverished practitioner without even a mid-grade magical artifact. 70,000 spirit stones. Zhang Junwei also put down his teacup. Although he was the Sect Master in front of a senior secret realm practitioner like Taoist Chiu, he couldn't just forcibly take a disciple and assign him to his own name. He had to let Su Jie make his own choice, which meant others wouldn't have much to say on the matter. Su Jie felt parched, and his heart raced even faster. Such a price was already about the wealth of a secret realm practitioner, albeit one with weaker combat abilities. For instance, Zhong Shiguan. The value of various spirit stones and materials that Su Jie had acquired from Zhong Shiguan's storage bag amounted to 70,000 spirit stones. Hey, you two are really overdoing it. What's the point of all this arguing? Give me some face. Elder Tang couldn't stand it anymore, and suddenly spoke up, smiling amiably at Su Jie. Su Jie, I heard that the Guanchao Pavilion outside offered you a reward of 100,000 spirit stones, and I'm not one to be petty. As long as you agree to become my disciple, I'll give you that price. Otherwise, those from the righteous sect might think we at the Ghost Ridge Palace treat our disciples poorly. It would also save Taoist Chiu and the sect master the trouble of arguing back and forth, losing face for our Ghost Ridge Palace. Upon hearing this, Taoist Chiu and Zhang Junwei both turned their gaze toward him, thinking he was the peak of shamelessness. Elder Tang, why are you getting involved too? Didn't you just recruit Zhu Qingya, who also has the talent of the secret realm? And now you're competing with me for a disciple. Taoist Chiu was furious. It seems everyone is eyeing the good disciple he had finally found. If they were capable, they should cultivate their own. That's not right. Who would complain about having too many disciples? Elder Tang shook his head, feeling no psychological burden about outbidding the others. A single secret realm talent represents a guaranteed value of over 100,000 spirit stones. Not to mention Su Jie, who clearly has the makings of a strong secret realm cultivator and might even advance to the Taoist platform realm one day. Which master wouldn't be greedy for such a disciple? I've offered 100,000 spirit stones. If you compete with me, let's just all stop playing around. I'll go issue a blood post and complain to the ancestor. Taoist Chiu's slaps on the table made a loud bang, and his face turned beet red. The moment they heard the word ancestor, Zhang Junwei and Elder Tang instantly calmed down, as if the term had a significant deterrent effect. Su Jie was curious about who this ancestor was, wondering if there was a presence in Ghost Ridge Palace stronger than the sect master. But given the situation, it wasn't his place to ask questions. Fine, Taoist Chiu, you need to take good care of Su Jie in the future, and make sure you don't misguide such a talent of our sect. Su Jie, if you have any questions about cultivation, you can come to me for advice. Zhang Junwei shook his head, ultimately giving up the competition. He, Taoist Chiu, don't spoil the disciple. Be more attentive daily. Elder Tang also felt a bit regretful choosing to give up. You don't need your nonsense. I can definitely teach my disciple well. Taoist Chiu was still angry at these two fools, and his tone was unfriendly. Master, please don't be angry. I've always firmly chosen you as my master. The sect master and Elder Tang are just worried about me. Please don't blame them. At that moment, Su Jie stepped forward. Even though he was overjoyed inside, his face showed a tragically earnest expression, giving a speech that could rival any cliché. If those disciples from Ghost Ridge Palace saw this scene, their jaws would probably drop. Usually, it is the disciples who are picked and chosen by the masters and elders, often facing disdain. Outer disciples even have to submit blood marrow crystals to their masters monthly, and inner disciples receive limited guidance. For someone like Su Jie, being competed for by several elders and the sect master, others would probably think of it as nothing but a fanciful tale. Go back and cultivate diligently to advance to the secret realm as soon as possible, lest the sect master and Elder Tang say that my teaching is ineffective. If you have any unresolved issues in your cultivation, just come to find me. At the gate of the Obsidian Tower, Taoist Chiu had given Su Jie 100,000 spirit stones and repeatedly instructed him. Master, I will strive to break through to the secret realm within half a year. Su Jie scratched his head, stating a timeline that he considered fairly lenient for himself. Currently at the Yunling Realm 9th level, Su Jie only needed to advance to the 10th level and consume the Rainbow Gathering Flame Pill to elevate to the secret realm, which did not pose a big problem for him. His Purple Cloud Thunder body now had a much better aptitude than before. I've managed to get you a month of rest. Take this time to replenish your centipedes and flying sword. You'll also need to participate in the sect war, so perform well on the battlefield. Taoist Chiu was very pleased and then glanced at the sword nourishing gourd hanging from Su Jie's waist, saying, The white-bone sky-slaying sword I bestowed upon you last time is gradually unable to keep up with your strength. Hand it over to me, and I will help you refine it again to upgrade it to a mid-grade magical artifact. The white-bone sky-slaying sword was personally forged by Taoist Chiu. He now valued Su Jie highly and planned to reforge this low-grade top-level flying sword, adding some materials to elevate its grade to mid-grade. Thank you, Master. I have indeed grown quite fond of this flying sword. Upon hearing this, Su Jie's smile brightened even more, appreciative of Taoist Chou's heartfelt efforts to assist him. As the foremost weapon for killing, flying swords are considerably more precious compared to other magical artifacts of the same grade. A mid-grade magical artifact typically costs between 500 and 10,000 spirit stones, but a mid-grade flying sword generally requires 10,000 spirit stones. For most individuals in the secret realm, their weapons are only at the mid-grade magical artifact level, though possessing a top-grade magical artifact indicates considerable strength. Of course, someone like Xiao Guanglian, who owned over a dozen mid-grade magical artifacts and 2 top-grade magical artifacts, was out of the ordinary, benefiting from fortuitous circumstances at birth. Taoist Chou gave a few more words of advice to Su Jie, took the white-bone sky-slaying sword, and then sent him away. 1 week later, Insect Valley. The sun was just rising, its rays penetrating the clouds and casting light over the forest of Insect Valley. On the grass, dewdrops sparkled with a silver glow under the sunlight, leaves rustled softly in the breeze, and the air was filled with a fresh and natural scent. On a protruding rock on the cliff, Su Jie sat cross-legged, absorbing the morning's purple mist light, with his robes fluttering in the morning wind, seemingly merging with heaven and earth. The distant mountains surrounded him, shrouded in clouds and mist with valleys and streaming springs, all of which relaxed his mood completely. He successively practiced the 100 Poison Refining Gu Scripture, White Crane Zen Dao, and Enlightenment Returning Ruin skill. Although his strength improved slowly, it never ceased, constantly progressing toward the 10 levels of Yunling realm. At this rate, Su Jie would be able to advance to the 10th level of the Yunling realm within 2 months. After a session of cultivation, as the sun climbed higher, Su Jie slowly opened his eyes, which sparkled brightly. He stood up and let out a casual long howl, the sound echoing through the valleys. Soon after, a huge shadow above the sky blocked the sunlight as an 80-meter-long thousand-hand centipede thundered down, kicking up a cloud of dust. Under the abdomen of the thousand-hand centipede, numerous pale corpse hands held nets, within them newly caught human-faced moths squirming vigorously. This past week, Su Jie had primarily stayed here in Insect Valley, using the thousand-hand centipede to capture human-faced moths to replenish what he had used up during his last venture. In his spare time, he went to the black market to purchase some flying swords, ensuring his sword-nourishing gourd maintained its lethality. Now wealthy with tens of thousands of spirit stones, Su Jie might have even bought a few mid-grade flying swords to play around with, if it weren't for the fact that they weren't available on the black market. Sizzle. The thousand-handed centipede set down the human-faced moth. Its injuries from last time had completely recovered. The mid-grade 5 refinement thousand-handed centipede capturing the human-faced moth possessed defensive scales particularly resistant to biting and corrosion, making it far more efficient than before. You did really well. Su Jie patted the head of the thousand-handed centipede, which squinted its eyes, thoroughly enjoying itself. Whoosh! Suddenly, a figure appeared beside Su Jie, as Han Ruyan appeared in front of him. A dragon and phoenix flower sedan chair wafted over from afar, and after approaching, it opened to release a massive swarm of human-faced moths. These moths, naturally, were the work of the ghost bride, Han Ruyan. She had also entered the territory of the human-faced moths to participate in the capture. Otherwise, it would take a long time to capture hundreds of thousands of them with just the thousand-handed centipede. Is that enough? Han Ruyan's lifeless, hollow gaze turned toward Su Jie. This kind of bug-catching posed no challenge to her. It was just exceedingly tedious. If it weren't for Su Jie's wishes, his repeated requests, she wouldn't bother with such menial tasks. Even as a fierce ghost, Han Ruyan still retained some traits of a lady from her previous life, evident from her extravagant manner of travel. The Han Ruyan of the past would never stoop to do such crude work. When Han Ruyan spoke, it wasn't just Su Jie who heard her. The thousand-handed centipede did, too. Sizzle. The thousand-handed centipede bared its gaping maw, clearly not fond of Han Ruyan, who seemed to be stealing its job. Quiet or I'll slaughter you. Han Ruyan glanced at the thousand-handed centipede. Faced with its tremendous size, her eyes were sinister and horrifying, filled with a potent scent of death. Roar! The thousand-handed centipede reared up, like a towering skyscraper. Humans fear fierce ghosts because human emotions are too rich. But insects don't think about such matters. In the world of insects, size, venom, strength, and defense are everything. Even though the ghost bride possessed bizarre abilities, the thousand-handed centipede was not the slightest bit afraid of her. Its massive size meant that even if Han Rian unleashed her full might, it would be hard for her to inflict a fatal blow. And the thousand-handed centipede, with its mastery of the Death Decline Curse Cloud and high-temperature beam, possessed energy and curse-based defensive capabilities that could also harm ghostly entities without a physical form. Seeing that the thousand-handed centipede and Han Rian, an insect and a ghost, were about to clash, Su Jie's head swelled, and he stepped forward to stand between them. Stop, stop, stop. What's going on with you two? My dear, you calm down first, Xiao Qian, you calm down too. You're on the same side now. What's the point of infighting? Sizzle. The thousand-handed centipede made a couple of aggrieved noises, its antennae waving back and forth, as if it were complaining to Su Jie. I was here first. Why does this woman have to compete with me for favor? All right. I know what you want to say. Su Jie, unable to help but laugh, stroked the body of the thousand-handed centipede, coaxing it to reduce its size and coil around his right arm, and began feeding it human-faced moths as snacks. As long as it had food, the thousand-handed centipede quickly forgot its troubles and conflicts. Han Ruyan looked on quietly at all this, without making a comment. After feeding it, Su Jie took out the ancient mirror from his primordial spirit, opened the portal and said, My dear, remember what I told you before, about going to a new place? Come with me. Han Ruyan's dead, hollow gaze watched the portal, as she followed Su Jie's steps into the portal. Blue Star Zen Country, East Qin State, Mande Region. Fumin Breeding Farms Underground Goo Insect Base. With the disappearance of the transfer portal, Su Jie and Han Ruyan found themselves here. As soon as they arrived, the red wedding dress that Han Ruyan wore suddenly became dull, as if covered with a layer of dust, no longer as eye-catching. Why is there no spiritual energy in this place? Han Ruyan felt somewhat uncomfortable. Ghosts only emerged in the Tianyuan world because of the magical existence of spiritual energy. For fierce ghosts, they do not have a physical existence. Their bodies are also not entirely soul-like. Souls can usually reside and dwell within the 10,000 soul banner, but fierce ghosts do not have this method. Su Jie had previously conducted experiments. After death, the souls of humans in the Tianyuan world could usually exist for half an hour. In the Blue Star, after a person dies, their soul generally dissipates into the air within a matter of seconds, and what's missing here is the participation of spiritual energy. In an environment like Blue Star with no spiritual energy, fierce ghosts, beings of pure Yin, are like fish out of water, extremely uncomfortable and severely suppressed. If it were humans who went to a strange planet, if it wasn't a planet suitable for human life, they too would face all kinds of challenges. From your understanding, you can consider this place as a separate realm. There's no spiritual energy here, unlike in the Tianyuan world. Can you adapt to it? Su Jie looked at Han Ruyan with concern because his series of plans to follow would still require Han Ruyan's participation. If Han Ruyan was unable to act, then there would be a big problem. Han Ruyan observed the surroundings, with various poisonous insects living within the underground base. Her gaze fixed on a low-grade snow frost spider, activating her curse-killing ability. The next moment, the snow frost spider struggled for 3 seconds, then its body stiffened and lost life. However, Han Ruyan showed no reaction, and even Su Jie could see the problem. In the past, Han Ruyan could instantly kill such ordinary low-grade poisonous insects, but now it took her 2 seconds. Su Jie also sensed that the curse power spreading from Han Ruyan's body was much reduced, both in speed and lethality. In Su Jie's understanding, it was like a flame lacking the medium of oxygen, making it difficult to burn. The reason Han Ruyan could still use her ability relied purely on her own strength, without the involvement of spiritual power. This, in turn, led to a problem. Han Ruyan was weakened. Fortunately, judging by her condition, this weakening was still within a tolerable range. However, When Han Ruyan took out the heavenly ghost map and released the fierce ghosts inside, things became different. More than 30 fierce ghosts appeared in the underground base. Except for the painting woman and the lantern ghost, these two fifth-grade fierce ghosts were still in good condition. The other first, second, and third-grade fierce ghosts showed varying degrees of collapse. Some fierce ghosts flickered in and out of visibility, some trembled all over, and some had difficulty moving. Without the influence of spiritual energy, those incorporeal fierce ghosts, the weaker they were in strength, the more severely affected they were in Blue Star. The reason is quite simple. Without water, spiritual energy, strong fish can choose to go on land, evolve to change from gill breathing to lung breathing, and adapt to environmental changes. But weaker creatures would be eliminated by nature, with natural selection favoring the survival of the fittest. Fierce ghosts could not naturally emerge in Blue Star. The same goes for the transfer of fierce ghosts from Tianyuan World, which would also lead to a series of symptoms. Compared to them, the goo insects were faring much better. After all, whether in Tianyuan World or Blue Star, insects and animals exist. It's just that their strength varies. Even without spiritual energy, their survival wouldn't be affected. Moreover, poisonous insects on Blue Star can transform by consuming poison insects, generating a unique type of spiritual energy that ensures their combat power. How can it be so serious? We can't go on like this. Witnessing this scene, Su Jie took out a spirit stone from his storage bag and stimulated the spiritual energy within. This spiritual energy dispersed into the air, and some of the fierce ghosts' bodies improved slightly, but they were still disintegrating, just at a slower pace. Give it to me. Han Ruyan took the spirit stone from Su Jie's hand, her fingers brushing against it. Immediately, Han Ruyan used her transformative ability to modify large quantities of spirit stones, ghostifying them to better suit the constitution of the fierce ghost baby. Well, for Han Ruyan, these ghosts below third grade were no different from babies, pitifully weak. The spirit stone gradually became dark and black, eventually turning into beads that emitted a heavy yin qi. By embedding these beads into the bodies of the fierce ghosts, their condition soon improved, and at least they would not naturally disintegrate into the air. Of course, the weakening was still present. Even Han Ruyan couldn't avoid it, let alone these ghosts. Indeed, it is my wife who has the ability. Seeing this scene, Su Jie breathed a sigh of relief and picked up Han Ruyan to give her a kiss. This is against propriety. Han Ruyan stared expressionlessly at Su Jie, her cold and stern gaze making him feel a tingling on his scalp, so he decisively released his hold on Han Ruyan. Ghosts can only maintain their state for a while and need regular insertion of spirit stones. Han Ruyan withdrew her gaze and looked at the ghosts she had brought, recalling them into the heavenly ghost map to reduce the consumption of spirit stones. Meanwhile, Su Jie released the thousand-hand centipede to feast in this place, while he took out a jade scroll. Su Jie's primordial spirit left his body, enveloped the jade scroll, and then imparted a section of knowledge into it, all in the languages and common knowledge of the various countries of Blue Star. The principle was the same as engraving spells, scriptures, and secret texts on the jade scroll, and it was even easier and simpler. The only requirement was a primordial spirit to do the carving, which Su Jie had. In a short while, Su Jie handed the jade scroll to Han Ruyan. Study the things inside. They are the basic knowledge of this pocket world. After Han Ruyan received the jade scroll and understood the basic knowledge of Blue Star, her numb and vacant eyes showed a ripple of emotion. Wife, can you change your aura a bit? Like this woman in the photo, change your clothes to match hers. Su Jie then took out a photo, which was of Lu Yingying wearing a skirt. Han Ruyan slowly turned around. The red wedding dress changed to pure white, and the phoenix crown on her head gradually turned into a golden hairpin with her hair piled up. And then this one, there we go, all set. Seeing this, Su Jie put sunglasses on Han Ruyan to cover those lifeless, chilling eyes that could cause panic. With these changes, Han Ruyan had become a pretty woman with a slightly pale complexion, and no one would suspect that she was a terrifying ghost bride. Now, let me show you this world. Su Jie took Han Ruyan by the hand, leading her away from the underground goo insect base, and rode the elevator up to the surface. Monday City. As night fell, Su Jie personally drove, bringing Han Ruyan to Monday City. Along the way, the sight of towering buildings, ceaseless flow of cars, and the dynamic vista of the modern city filled Han Ruyan with an unprecedented sense of novelty. Houses were packed densely like dust and smoke. Billboards flickered. Convenience stores were filled with colorful merchandise. Glass curtain walls reflected specks of light, resembling a star-studded night sky. The brightly lit city seemed never to pause, with neon lights racing around, crowds weaving through the streets, the clamor, car horns, and footsteps blending together to create an atmosphere of prosperity. Compared to the past, Monday City had developed swiftly. After winning the war to unify the East Chin state, JECA Company once again threw around money lavishly, continuously developing the infrastructure of Monday City, boosting the economy and elevating the happiness of its citizens. The population of Monday City had now surpassed 1 million, attracting people from other cities in the East Chin state to come here to work. Although these numbers in Hua country might only be the size of a county town, in Chan country, this was already a major city. This is the city. I've never seen anything like this. Sitting in the passenger seat, Han Ruyan touched the steel chariot that ran without horses, and then turned to gaze at the bustling traffic outside the window. The Monday City before her eyes was a bizarre city she had never seen. Everywhere one could see houses made of steel, cement, and glass, people talking to a small metal box, wearing odd clothing, screens and glass showing flickering images with vivid human figures appearing inside, as if someone lived within, performing a show. Even though she had learned about these things from the Jade Scroll, knowing that the self-moving chariots were called cars, the talking metal boxes were communication tools called mobile phones, and the glass devices were televisions that could store and project images. But knowing was one thing, experiencing it firsthand was completely different. It's good you haven't seen it before. Come on, I'll take you down for a look. Su Jie parked the car, put on big sunglasses to cover his face to avoid recognition, and then led Han Ruyan out of the car. Why does it feel a bit cold? It's July now, so hot it's unbearable. Huh, it does seem a bit cold, right? I said it felt a bit chilly. Some pedestrians near Han Ruyan shivered inexplicably and muttered as they walked away. The place they got out of the car was a bustling night market, where the aroma of barbecue wafted through the air. The cries of vendors at their stalls were continuous, and the scent of various snacks permeated the atmosphere. The game stalls at the roadside were full of cheer, and amidst the flashing lights, a vast array of small goods, decorations, leather products, toys, textiles, and more were displayed for sale. Chan Country's specialty jade and jewelry stalls, in particular, attracted many customers who stopped to admire. Boss, wanna give it a try? 1 ring for 1 Hua Yuan. A game stall owner enthusiastically approached Su Jie and Han Ruyan as they passed by, beckoning to drum up business. Su Jie saw a banner advertising behind the game stall. This night market had been planned and built by the JECA Company. The stall owner clearly had no idea that he was attempting to drum up business from the big boss of JECA Company, the true controller of the East Chin state. Seeing the owner so enthusiastic, Su Jie pulled out $20 in exchange for some rings and handed them to Han Ruyan, whispering, "Don't use your powers, just give it a try." Han Ruyan glanced at Su Jie, and although her eyes were not visible behind the sunglasses, Su Jie could imagine that she probably wanted to say something again that was against decorum. However, with the crowd coming and going, in the end, Han Ruyan did not refuse. She took a ring and casually tossed it. 20 rings scattered like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, each one precisely hooking onto various plush toys at the stall. The boss's mouth gaped open, and his face turned green. Out of all the people to choose from, he chose the last customer who should be involved in the game. No amount of toys would be enough to satisfy the hooping. "I'll just take this one, boss. I'll swing by to support your business when I have more time." Su Jie picked up a fluffy panda from the stall and stuffed it into Han Ruyan's arms, continuing to stroll the city with Han Ruyan, enjoying the rare leisure time. As they passed a movie theater, Han Ruyan suddenly pointed at a poster and asked, "Is that also a fierce ghost?" Su Jie turned his head to look. It was a horror film from Hua Country being released, and the ghost on the promotional poster had caught Han Ruyan's eye. This is just fake, not like you. If you want to know, I will take you to see it. If it's fake, there's no need. No, it's just right for you to see how people here understand ghosts and demons. Besides, we are husband and wife. According to customs here, a couple watching a movie together is called a date, which is a symbol of close relationship. Is that so? Han Ruyan tilted her head, not understanding how such an activity could be related to feelings. Anyway, just come with me to see it. Su Jie pulled Han Ruyan into the cinema, where the ghost movie had not yet started. However, after Su Jie made a phone call, the manager of the cinema ran out sweating profusely, eagerly welcomed them with bowing and scraping, and helped clear out a theater for Su Jie and Han Ruyan to have some private space. Inside the cinema, as the screen gradually lit up, Su Jie and Han Ruyan started to watch the movie. This is a movie. It conveys images through a big screen. People shoot them in advance and then screen them in cinemas to earn money. This movie is called Bixian vs. Zhenzi 3. TSK. Sounds like a crappy movie. I will have someone find a few classic horror films from the small Japanese days. They are the real experts in making this kind of movie. Han Ruyan didn't understand Su Jie's reaction. To her, the mere fact that people could move around on the screen was already very novel. And after the movie started playing, Han Ruyan suddenly understood why Su Jie had reacted that way. Killing people is that troublesome for a ghost? Killing these ordinary people? Han Ruyan couldn't understand. Watching the so-called fierce ghost on the screen dealing with a normal person with so much trouble, she inexplicably felt insulted. As the movie was nearing its end, the movie revealed that the so-called female ghost was just an illusion experienced by the female protagonist before drowning. Han Ruyan felt as if she had been deceived when she heard this. Her waterfall-like black hair fluttered, her eyes cold and eerie, exuding an oppressive atmosphere that was almost suffocating. All electronic devices in the cinema began to flicker violently, showing signs of malfunction. Don't get angry, you can't kill people here, we'll watch something else. Su Jie hurriedly held back Han Ruyan, knowing that if Han Ruyan truly lost her composure here, countless people wouldn't live to see tomorrow's sun. Fortunately, at the critical moment, a new movie was delivered, and Su Jie managed to placate Han Ruyan for the time being. At the same time, he made a mental note to never let Han Ruyan watch such lousy movies again. If Han Ruyan truly got angered, even Su Jie himself wouldn't be able to handle the situation, and the consequences were too dreadful to imagine. Several hours later, when another movie ended, Han Ruyan, hugging a plush panda, shifted her gaze away from the screen. The local fierce ghosts, the weak ones are too weak, but the strong ones are not bad. Han Ruyan looked at Su Jie and voiced her assessment after watching movies for several hours. The horror films Su Jie had shown her were classics from the small days, featuring characters like Zhenzi and Kayako. Later on, Han Ruyan wasn't angry anymore and kept watching quietly. Although Han Ruyan didn't laugh, Su Jie could tell that she was quite interested in these horror movies, perhaps due to the instincts of a fierce ghost. Su Jie laughed heartily and said, "These fierce ghosts are all fictional, different from the kind you understand. They can be set to be as strong as desired, they shouldn't be taken seriously. In my heart, you are the strongest fierce ghost. I can't defeat the headless ghost, the sword labor ghost, the ghost mother, and the starving ghost. Last time they forced me to retreat. Next time I see them, I'm going to kill them." Han Ruyan was vengeful and hadn't forgotten the scene of her defeat in East Victory City. "All right, if I get the chance, I'll help you get revenge." Su Jie stretched and stood up, saying, "I'm going to the restroom, you stay here for now. If someone comes in to play games with you, don't hold back." Han Ruyan didn't speak, her eyes moving back to the screen. As Su Jie left his seat, Divine Sense caught an interesting scene, and a cold smirk formed at the corner of his mouth. Meanwhile, several blonde-haired, blue-eyed foreigners suddenly walked into the cinema. A 40-something-year-old man, wearing casual beach shorts and shirt as if on a vacation, was chewing gum and pressed on a hidden earpiece in his left ear. Smith, the target is in Cinema 3, a man and a woman. The opportunity is rare. The other party has gone out alone, without bodyguards. You must capture them. The support helicopter will lower a rope ladder in the amusement park 2 kilometers away after you succeed. You must act fast. Otherwise Jekka security will respond, and no one will be able to save you. Listening to the continuous instructions from his superior through the earpiece, Smith calmly said, "Boss, this isn't our first field mission. We understand what you've spoken, so rest assured and leave it to us. You haven't yet realized the seriousness of the situation. The person we are capturing is an extremely vicious and dangerous individual. It can't be ruled out that the other party is also a super soldier. Your chance is only before the target has swallowed a strengthening pill to subdue and capture them." In the earpiece, the mission team's superior, Mahat Butler, sternly reminded his team not to take the situation lightly. "Of course, I'm aware, which is why I've brought the best. Elite among the CIA elite, all with decades of successful missions under their belts. Boss, as long as the support operation goes smoothly, I'll bring the person back to you." Smith spit out his gum and led 3 team members to the door of Cinema 3. The 3 teammates simultaneously drew their mini submachine guns and pistols, all equipped with silencers. Smith also pulled out a compact taser gun from his waistband, planning to first immobilize the target with electricity. Thus, even if the target was a super soldier, they couldn't swallow the strengthening pill in time to resist capture. Smith held up 3 fingers and bent them down one by one. "Go!" As the last finger bent, the 4 of them, with great coordination, kicked open the door of the cinema. They filed in swiftly, and Smith quickly located the target. To his surprise, there was only a woman in the cinema. The person they wanted to capture was not there. "There's been a mistake in the plan. The target is not in the cinema." Smith found the situation tricky, but he wasn't without his decisiveness in the moment. The target was so close to this woman that she must also be an important figure. Arresting her first, and if they couldn't capture the primary target, they could take this woman back to fulfill their duty. With this thought in mind, Smith pressed the trigger of the taser gun. The nitrogen pressurized cartridge was activated, and the barbed dart was fired out. At such a close distance, an elite CIA agent like Smith simply couldn't miss. The dart struck the woman accurately, releasing an electric shock that would cause any criminal's muscles to spasm uncontrollably, curling up, incapable of any resistance. But what surprised Smith even more happened. The woman was clearly hit, yet showed no signs of being subdued. Instead, she slowly turned her head to look over. Those eyes hidden beneath the sunglasses suddenly instilled a strong sense of panic in him, like a small, grazing animal faced with its natural predator. "It's a super soldier, open fire." Seeing this, Smith immediately thought that she might be a super soldier who had taken a strengthening pill. Such soldiers, according to their CIA intelligence, were already beyond human category, capable of wearing heavy armor that could withstand rifle bullets, carrying vehicle-mounted weapons while moving as nimbly as ever, scaling mountains as if on flat ground, with strength, endurance, flexibility, speed, vision, hearing, and other senses far surpassing human limits. That a taser gun would struggle to subdue such a non-human creature was understandable. In Smith's view, the woman might be the bodyguard of the target, ensuring the target's safety. He saw the need to take her down to eliminate the obstacles for the subsequent capture of the primary target. Pop, pop, pop. The silenced firearm fired, bullets shooting out one after another. The noise wasn't loud, for their elite agents used modified submachine guns and pistols. That should do it, even if she's a super soldier without heavy armor. As long as it's a body of flesh and blood, it can't possibly block bullets. Smith thought to himself, even an African elephant couldn't withstand bullets and went down with a single shot. Human-created weapons were such that not even the flesh of super soldiers could resist. However, the next moment, Smith heard the terrified screams of his companions. "Damn! Is this the devil? Is this person even human? Retreat! Retreat! Bullets are useless on her." His teammates were in a state of panic. Logically, Experienced CIA elite agents shouldn't lose their composure in any situation. But the scene that unfolded before them was beyond their comprehension. The bullets that were fired hung in midair, losing their kinetic energy and falling to the ground with a clatter, turning into red wedding candies. The wrappers of the candies on the ground peeled off and grew at a rapid pace, morphing into stiff-faced, heavily made-up papermen, staring at the group. "You've disturbed my time with my husband." An ominous voice, as if coming from the depths of hell, resounded. Smith, terrified, saw the woman take off her sunglasses, revealing a pair of dead and hollow, eerie eyes that definitely were not human. "Devil. This is a devil that crawled out from hell." Smith let out a fearful cry, as the woman before him shattered his scientific worldview that he had been raised with. Overwhelmed with inner panic, he instinctively wanted to flee. But it was already too late for them to think of escaping. Pale papermen eerily floated over, accompanied by flying human limbs. After a few screams, all became silent, leaving behind several dismembered, unrecognizable corpses on the ground. The whole event took less than half a minute. From the time Smith and his colleagues entered until their demise, Han Ruyin didn't even bother to rise from her chair, casually wiping out the 4 elite CIA agents. After Su Jie returned from the restroom, he noticed several dismembered corpses scattered across the floor, along with firearm parts. Having fun. Su Jie raised his right hand, and primordial soul power swept over like water. All the corpses and firearm parts on the floor, including the bloodstains, floated up and were drawn into the storage bag to avoid dirtying the cinema. They don't even qualify as cultivators, so how dare they make a move? Han Ruyin didn't react much. She simply didn't understand why a few ordinary people had attacked her. Are the humans of this pocket world also unafraid of death? Here, there is no concept of cultivators. Humans rely on external things to fight. Su Jie chuckled softly, starting to enlighten Han Ruyin. Is it because of spiritual energy? That's right, because there is no spiritual energy here. They are all ordinary people. Too weak. Han Ruyin found it very hard to understand how such a world could even survive. The humans here have embarked on a completely new path. You can't call them weak. Their technological weapons are quite formidable. Su Jie pulled out his phone from his pocket and started showing videos of various technological weapons. When the brilliance of a nuclear bomb rose on the phone screen, Han Ruyin suddenly fell silent. Missiles, fighter jets, aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, drilling bombs, incendiary devices, biochemical weapons, neutron bombs, especially the last, nuclear bombs, paired with ballistic missiles, can strike enemies thousands of kilometers away, reaching terminal speeds tens of times the speed of sound, with central temperatures reaching hundreds of millions of degrees. The strongest nuclear bomb ever created in human history, the Emperor bomb, produced a fireball with a radius of 4,600 meters and a mushroom cloud nearly 40 kilometers wide and about 64 kilometers high, over 7 times taller than the highest mountain peak in this world. In addition, the humans here are also researching laser weapons, electromagnetic weapons, genetic weapons, particle beam weapons, nano weapons, space weapons, antimatter weapons, unmanned intelligent weapons, and so on. You can't call them weak because of this. Su Jie seriously explained to Han Ruyin so she wouldn't take them lightly. Other weapons aside, the ultimate human weapon, the nuclear bomb, even if Han Ruyin didn't have a body, she absolutely couldn't withstand the massive release of energy from a nuclear explosion, the extreme high temperatures, radiation, various radioactive radiations, shock waves, and electromagnetic pulses. If it weren't for fear of attracting the attention of Tianyuan world, Su Jie would consider acquiring a few nuclear bombs. An innocent man holds no blame, yet possessing a precious item makes him guilty. Such powerful weapons could never be used without being noticed. After all, the commotion caused by a nuclear explosion is too great, and by then, the beings in the Taoist platform realm, perhaps even more powerful beings like 100 or 1,000 times stronger from the Buddhist saint monks and Taoist true immortals, would cast their sights over. Su Jie never dared to speculate whether the powerful beings of Tianyuan world could find him or not. You must understand that in Tianyuan world, there are those who unreasonably predict and calculate the fortunes that could pinpoint a person. As soon as he did it, attracting the gaze of a true powerhouse, he would definitely be exposed. And in Blue Star, Su Jie temporarily had no need to use nuclear bombs, even though he could obtain them and stealthily take several with his storage bag. But while being weaker, it's better to keep a low profile to avoid drawing too much attention. If a nuclear bomb was secretly taken, it could at most serve as a warning or show of force, but the fight would still have to be fought. Russia and Ukraine are examples. Russia having nuclear weapons didn't avoid war, as intimidation can't deter those driven by interests. Unless Su Jie went mad and actually detonated one in a city, which would be an act so grave that he would have no place in Blue Star anymore. Thus, for Su Jie, nuclear bombs are essentially optional. His territory is only so large. He doesn't need such a big toy to decorate his own land. It's a world that seems very weak yet very powerful. Quite a contradiction. Han Ruyan, watching those weapon videos, began to have a basic understanding of the combat power of this world's humans. In her view, even a powerhouse in the Taoist platform realm, directly hit by a nuclear bomb, would be reduced to ashes. But other weaker individual weapons and regular soldiers, facing a fierce ghost, even just a first-grade fierce ghost, would find them troublesome enough. So they mistaken you for an ordinary person as well. It's not strange that they dare to strike. Su Jie, smiling, pointed at himself. In this world, I occupy a piece of territory, managing approximately 2.8 million people. At the same time, I'm in conflict with some countries and forces of this world who are actually trying to capture me. You were just hit by mistake. City Lord. Han Ruyan, using her understanding, categorized Su Jie's identity. You can consider me a city lord. Maybe later, as my territory expands, I might even become an emperor. Su Jie took Han Ruyan's hand and said, "Speaking of which, doesn't the term city lord's wife sound much more exciting, fitting for your status, right? These people, can they be killed? To harvest their fear and resentment." Han Ruyan's train of thought, unlike Su Jie's, ventured into an eerie suggestion. You can't kill them. These people are all my subjects. Su Jie firmly suppressed Han Ruyan's frenzied idea. Then, outside your territory, we can't make enemies of the whole world. Such actions can't be taken lightly. Su Jie emphasized again, careful not to make any definitive statements. In any case, don't recklessly kill people here. If you want to absorb the fear to grow stronger, I'll provide you with a new method. Han Ruyan calmly looked at Su Jie, seemingly indifferent to his words. Su Jie, noticing this, pointed to the still-playing movie screen. What do you think about these movies? Too fake. Han Ruyan spoke indifferently. No matter how realistically the movie was made, to Han Ruyan, a real fierce ghost, it was just SOSO, hardly causing her any emotional turbulence. Su Jie pondered for a moment and then suddenly said, "What if you were to act as the protagonist in the movie? Would you be willing? Make a movie." Han Ruyan's hollow eyes flickered slightly, clearly not understanding. "Yes, make a movie." Su Jie nodded and shared his idea. You see, fierce ghosts need fear emotions to enhance their grade. This kind of movie is a very good carrier. After filming it, not only can it be shown in the territory under my management, but it can also be broadcast worldwide. Using the primordial spirit pearl, we can absorb the fear emotions for you to use. This inspiration came from what the Heavenly Soul Sect did in Nanyang City. The Heavenly Soul Sect imprisoned an entire city and turned it into their fear granary. Every night, they created a procession of hundreds of ghosts, putting the citizens in constant fear and greatly increasing their terror. Then, they used the primordial spirit pearl to absorb the citizens' fear emotions, completing round after round of harvest. Su Jie also planned to operate similarly. However, he did not intend to create a procession of hundreds of ghosts. It was too attention-grabbing. Su Jie was not yet strong enough and did not want to expose his supernatural powers. Therefore, selecting a sufficient fear carrier, horror movies were an excellent choice. Current movie playback is done using hard drives. Distribution companies hand over the hard drives to cinemas, play them until the movie is off, and the hard drives are then mailed back to the distribution companies or sent to the upper-level cinema chain for a unified return. This provided Su Jie with room to operate. The movie-level hard drives were even larger than power banks. With such a large volume, it was more than enough to fit a primordial spirit pearl the size of a fingernail cap. When the movie is played, as the hard drive is inserted for playback, the primordial spirit pearl is also activated, covering the entire cinema. The fear emotions generated by the audience during the film would naturally be absorbed into the primordial spirit pearl. Of course, this required a lot of manipulation, such as how to disguise the primordial spirit pearl to combine it with the hard drive, how to achieve enough cinema chain coverage, how to ensure his movies could play adequately and attract more viewers. Soo Jie needed to handle these aspects. Hearing Soo Jie's words, Han Ruyin was silent and did not agree or refuse. Seeing that Han Ruyin did not refuse, Soo Jie knew she was tempted and continued, "You said these movies are too fake, right? In that case, you can be the star and show the world what real ghosts are like, while also harvesting fear emotions. It's like hitting two birds with one stone." Soo Jie's simple, provocative technique was indeed effective on Han Ruyin. Agreed. Han Ruyin uttered a word, agreeing to participate in Soo Jie's horror film scheme. Upon hearing this, Soo Jie's face showed delight. The population under his rule was larger than that of Nanyang City, not to mention the billions potentially able to provide vast amounts of fear emotions. But a horror film, even starring Han Ruyin, could not be watched by people every day, so Soo Jie had other ideas. Suddenly, Soo Jie continued, "Besides making movies, I plan to use other methods to absorb fear emotions, which will involve your fierce ghost subordinates. In this world, there is an amusement venue known as the Ghost House. People seeking sensory thrills would venture in to challenge it, and the Ghost House would have humans dressed up as fake ghosts. We would do the opposite by using real ghosts for the act, ensuring enough thrills and a continuous flow of fear emotions." Soo Jie talked about another plan, which was to set up a ghost house. Although the movie's coverage is broad, reaching millions of viewers, but once a movie is played, the viewers wouldn't go to watch it a first time. Even if some watched it 2 or 3 times, the fear threshold would increase significantly. After all, knowing where the scary parts are, people would be prepared, and their fear emotions would decrease significantly. Ghost houses are different. Each day, as long as there is enough traffic, fear emotions would be flowing continuously, not having the kind of gaps that movies have when they are taken down. Moreover, watching on a screen is completely different from being on the spot in a ghost house. The brought fear is fundamentally different. A typical ghost house might be instantly seen as fake, not scaring people much. But the ghost house that Soo Jie planned to set up would have real fierce ghosts personally taking part. The fear that would be brought could be too terrifying, making people piss themselves, possibly even causing heart attacks. Though ghost houses had fewer numbers compared to the people covered by movies, the quality was high, and both could perfectly offset and complement each other. "It seems a bit troublesome, but I'll leave it to you," she said. Han Ruyin found it troublesome, far less straightforward than directly killing people. But since Soo Jie wouldn't let her kill indiscriminately, she could only gather fear energy this way. After all, it was her fierce ghost subordinates doing the actual work, so she naturally had no reason to refuse. Now Han Ruyin needed fear energy to enhance her grade. She did not want to keep running away the next time she encountered a 6th grade fierce ghost. Soo Jie needed Han Ruyin to become stronger. With a top 6th grade wedding dress ghost, if they encountered Zhou Minzhen again later, Soo Jie would be confident enough to beat him. In the northwest direction, bordering Chan country, lies the capital of Siam, Manchester. A heavily guarded, secretive military base is situated here, with soldiers patrolling back and forth, each leading a military dog and armed with live ammunition, and watch posts and surveillance equipment scattered all around. Meanwhile, it's only a half-hour drive from the beautiful country's military forces stationed in Siam. The army can arrive even quicker on the ground, and Air Force support is even faster. This is the location of the CIA's JECA Affairs Bureau, officially named the JECA Group Intelligence Research and Report Office, directly accountable to the CIA. The resources and manpower invested here are on the same scale as those initially directed towards Al-Qaeda, attracting only the most elite forces to this bureau. In the office, a man with thick, flaxen hair and sharp, insightful eyes is working. He is none other than the bureau's director, Moritz. Rubbing his temples, Moritz sighed and said, "The C5 field team failed." Huh? Standing in front of Moritz was a man in his 50s with a prominent hawk-like nose. "Smith and his team botched it. They've been out of contact for 4 hours and 20 minutes. Most likely they are dead." Mahat Butler's expression was somber, as he was the person in charge of the field team, and the operation to capture Su Jie at the movie theater was directed by him. Unfortunately, as soon as the 4 elite agents entered the theater, they vanished without a trace, never to relay any more intelligence. Mahat Butler, who had been in this line of work for many years, knew all too well what this implied. "According to our intelligence, there were no Jekka security guards with the target at the time, just a woman. Now that the mission has failed, we suspect that the strange woman seen with Su Jie is a super soldier." Mahat spoke with a mix of pain and sorrow in his eyes. Smith had been his old friend for many years, and it was unimaginable that he had met such a fate. The loss of 4 such elite agents was substantial, as cultivating such experienced agents was extremely difficult. "Mahat, we should have been prepared for this. After all, we are dealing with an unimaginably crazy and terrifying organization. If capturing them had been so easy, there'd have been no need to establish our bureau," Moritz said, twirling his pen and shaking his head with a bitter smile. Just as Mahat was about to say something, the office door was suddenly knocked on, and an assistant rushed in. "Director, the lab is requesting your presence." Moritz looked away and asked, "Is there a discovery?" "Yes, Professor Rory Sanchez has made a new discovery." "All right, I'll head over now." Moritz stood up and said to Mahat, "Come with me. Let's see what the lab has discovered. Let's hope they bring us some good news today to comfort the souls of Smith and the others as they ascend to heaven." Together, they left the office and arrived at a large-scale laboratory. The facility was fully equipped with an array of high-end instruments, and the researchers were elites from major medical and life sciences research centers. Within the Jekka Affairs Bureau, to better study super soldiers, collaborations with major pharmaceutical companies were specifically established. Aster Pharmaceutical was the leading sponsor of this research and development project. Generally, such military-industrial projects in other countries are led by governments and military forces. However, in the beautiful country where capital reigns supreme, even defense weaponry is often outsourced to military-industrial complexes for production and are VADI, becoming defense contractors that are virtually extensions of the state. Pharmaceuticals are similarly highly lucrative, and Jekka Company, which rose to prominence with Tianyuan hair growth liquid, now captivated the interest of major pharmaceutical groups with the existence of super soldiers, all eager to partake in the profits. After donning protective gear and going through multiple disinfection processes, Moritz entered the laboratory. Inside, Moritz saw several soldiers training. Some were lifting heavy barbells with one arm, managing with a single arm to lift weights so heavy that others couldn't manage with both. Others were undergoing speed tests. Even with a 30 kilograms weight, they ran faster than Bolt. Others were undergoing firearms testing. Blindfolded, they used their heightened senses to hit a swinging bell by identifying its position by sound. These soldiers were super soldiers who had ingested strengthening pills. Around them, researchers in white coats were documenting various parameters and occasionally let out exclamations of amazement, clearly shocked by the physical capabilities of the soldiers. Now, they were having their own soldiers take them to test the effects of these pills. Moritz did not stay long, continuing onward to find the head of the Super Soldier Research Project, Professor Rory Sanchez, the chief scientist from Aster Pharmaceutical and a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. "Director Moritz." Professor Rory stood up and shook hands with Moritz. "Professor Rory, how is your research coming along?" Moritz directly inquired about Jekka Company's super soldiers, which had always been something the beautiful country wanted to thoroughly investigate. "Please follow me." Professor Rory led Moritz deeper into the laboratory while explaining, "We dissected the super soldier corpses and strengthening pills you sent us. Through dissection, the super soldiers' physiques remain within the range of normal humans, but after taking the strengthening pill, they exhibit some truly miraculous changes. This medicine, the strengthening pill, we have analyzed its pharmacology multiple times, yet certain ingredients remain elusive, and we do not know exactly how to synthesize it." "Is that all?" Moritz frowned. In the last battle with Jekka Company, they had also killed some super soldiers, collected their bodies and strengthening pills, all used in covert research, aiming to decipher the secrets of the super soldiers. If the beautiful country possessed the strengthening pill, they could train these inhuman soldiers en masse. Coupled with their global leadership in advanced weapons technology, their combat power would surge to a new level. I am sorry, we also want to solve the strengthening pill, but we haven't made much more progress yet. Professor Rory shook his head. He did not know that the essence of strengthening pill was actually blood slaughter pill, made using something called blood marrow crystal. It was impossible that he could detect and replicate it. However, we have discovered new secrets about the super soldiers, Director Moritz, and it is you who told me that super soldiers are divided into first class, second class, and third class. Thanks to Mahet capturing a first-class super soldier, we have found crucial secrets in him. Professor Rory's voice was excited as he arrived at a laboratory protected by bulletproof glass. Inside the lab, a man lay motionless, typically Asian in appearance. Upon seeing the man, Mahet's brows furrowed. Did you kill him? This first-class super soldier named Ruan Qingguang was not easy to capture. A week ago, Mahet had organized a secret operation. Using intelligence, they dispatched elite field agents to capture a Jekka security first-class super soldier named Ruan Qingguang who had left the military camp to visit his home. He went home because his mother was seriously ill, a piece of information intercepted by the CIA. The Chan country's Mande region was Jekka security's territory, so the CIA was extremely cautious. Even with full preparations, the fact that Ruan had visited home without his heavy armor or having taken his strengthening pill still resulted in 2 dead elite agents. Ruan demonstrated such physical strength and combat capabilities that, even without taking strengthening pills, he was comparable to an ordinary third-class super soldier. Eventually, only after using a tranquilizer dose sufficient to sedate a tiger and electric shocks were they able to capture him alive. Professor Rory shook his head, saying, "Such precious material, how could we possibly kill him? He's just under sedation. This guy keeps struggling when awake, and you agents failed to persuade him to cooperate with us. Now we've only done some blood extraction and lab tests, but when we did a more detailed physical examination, we made new discoveries." He took out a stack of X-ray chest films, enhanced CTs, and MRI scans among other medical data and images from the table. Pointing at one of the X-ray images, Professor Rory said, "Director Moritz, Team Leader Mahet, please look here. This is our new discovery. At the position of the heart, there is a foreign object in his heart. We suspect it is a living parasite that absorbs nutrients from the body's blood. Typically dormant, during combat it nourishes its host by providing energy and nutrients necessary for explosive physical activity. This is why, even without ingesting strengthening pills, he possesses such terrifying physical prowess." A parasite? Moritz stared at a white spot the size of a marble in the X-ray image, faintly oval in structure with shadow contours on both sides that indeed resembled insect limbs. Yes, a parasite, an unprecedented type of parasite capable of enhancing human bodies. Rory's eyes gleamed with excitement behind his glasses. In human knowledge, parasites are generally harmful. But today, a first-class super soldier cultivated by Jekka Company has demonstrated with a practical example that parasites could also be beneficial, aiding in human physical enhancement. So this is Jekka Company's secret. No wonder they breed so many poison insects in the Mande region, probably for such biological insect studies. Mahet pondered thoughtfully, linking many of Jekka Company's strange behaviors to a much more logical explanation now. "Director Moritz, I wish to request more first-class super soldier material and to operate on the super soldier to extract the parasite. Only then can we better proceed with our research, perhaps unlocking Jekka Company's true secrets." As soon as Rory spoke, Moritz hadn't replied when Mahet's brow furrowed. "Professor Rory, do you think these first-class super soldiers are as common as cabbages? That you can just pluck them from the ground? You know how robust his physique is, and he's from the Mande region. Once our men are exposed, they will be attacked by large forces." Mahet was furious, especially since he had just lost 4 elite agents. "I'll permit the operation, but you must ensure Yuan Qingguang's life as much as possible. This material, we only have one sample at the moment. Regarding other living super soldiers, the CIA also faces difficulties and can't provide more for the time being. Moritz spoke, aware that Rory represented the interests of domestic pharmaceutical groups. With such a discovery, even if he wanted to stop the operation, it was impossible. Domestic forces would press him. Then, Director Moritz and Team Leader Mahit, please observe here. We'll commence the surgery now, and we will ensure Yuan Qingguang's safety to our fullest capability. Rory had been waiting for this response. Clapping his hands, a large group of doctors immediately entered the bulletproof glass lab to conduct the surgery to remove the parasite. Rory himself also put on surgical gloves and a mask, holding a scalpel to personally lead the operation. To prevent any accidents, armed soldiers were also called nearby to stand guard and ensure the operation proceeded safely. Once everything was ready, the sharp scalpel cut through the flesh, opened the chest cavity, revealing the vigorously beating heart inside. Forceps, please. Stop the bleeding. How are the vital signs? Pay attention to the transfusion. The patient's vital signs are normal, no decreasing trend. Keep a close watch. Don't be complacent. We only have this one specimen. Sweat formed on Professor Rory's forehead as nurses by his side helped wipe it off. Age was one factor making it challenging to perform the surgery himself, but the tension of fearing a mistake that could waste the precious specimen was another. It wasn't just Professor Rory who was tense. Mahat and Moritz outside the laboratory were also holding their breath, staring unblinkingly at the screen hanging on the exterior wall of the lab, which was broadcasting live everything happening in the surgery. Professor Rory picked up the scalpel again and cautiously proceeded to operate on the heart. Through a previously determined parasite location, he made a minimally invasive cut on the heart. Professor Rory and the surrounding doctor's pupils constricted, filled with excitement and thrill. For what they saw hidden in the heart, which didn't belong to human heart tissue, was a grayish-white, thumb-sized insect with 8 abdominal limbs, somewhat resembling a flea residing in it. It really is an insect, Moritz spoke in a tone full of surprise, finding it incredible that a human could still be alive with such an insect burrowed in the heart. If we can decipher the secret of this parasite, we too can cultivate such super soldiers. Mahit, as the field operations leader, valued practicality even more. Forceps. In the lab, Professor Rory lowered his voice as if afraid that the sound might disturb the parasite. As the forceps were positioned by a nurse, Professor Rory took a deep breath, steadied his arms, and inserted the forceps deep into the incision in the heart, clamping the parasite and slowly peeling it off from the heart. This process was extremely slow and lasted several minutes, but ultimately, Professor Rory successfully removed the forceps from the heart, bringing the parasite out with them. We did it, we succeeded. The biggest secret of the Jekka company will be unveiled before us. Haha. Thank God. I've already thought about how generous a bonus they will give us. This parasite could enhance human bodies, perhaps even extend lifespans. Even if it can't extend lifespans, as long as it's confirmed to enhance the human body without side effects, I would willingly have one. The doctors on scene immediately erupted into excitement, their gazes fervently fixed on the extracted parasite, a creature they had never seen before. Quickly move it to a petri dish to secure it. We can't afford any mistakes. Professor Rory removed his mask, delegating the suturing to other doctors. He turned to signal a thumbs up to Mortiz and Mahit outside the lab, intending to share his joy with them. But at that moment, Professor Rory suddenly noticed something off in their gazes. The look of utter shock directed behind him. When Professor Rory turned around, he saw the parasite that had seemed dormant just after being extracted suddenly stand up. Its hind legs kicked ferociously, shooting through the air and striking a doctor in the neck. Human flesh was like fragile foam, instantly penetrated by it. Ugh! The doctor with a pierced neck fell down, clutching at his neck, desperately trying to call for help, but unable to make a sound because of the damaged trachea. The surrounding doctors, including the soldiers and both Moritz and Mahit outside, were stunned. But the parasite, more accurately described as a symbiotic poisonous insect, didn't stop its carnage because of the human's startled gaze. It bounced back and forth, continuously piercing through several people, and finally, the remaining doctors panicked and subconsciously tried to flee the laboratory. But when they opened the door, the parasite jumped out with them, spreading the slaughter outside. "Quickly, kill it!" Moritz was shocked and enraged, never imagining that a small parasite could be so savage after leaving its host. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of gunfire erupted densely, and the small parasite was hard to hit with bullets, instantly resulting in more than a dozen people falling victim to its attack. Some had their necks pierced, others their hearts, and some their eye sockets. More soldiers started to arrive, and soon a flamethrower was brought into play. Now, people didn't care if they might destroy the valuable equipment here, and fired at the parasite. The parasite instinctively avoided the flames, but its speed was slowing down. The symbiotic poisonous insect was one with its host. Without the host's nourishment, it could only bounce around for a while before its body would quickly weaken. The soldiers seized the opportunity. Just as the parasite had pierced a soldier and was about to jump again, the flames engulfed both the man and the insect. By the time the flamethrower was turned off, the parasite had already been burned to death. "My sample!" Professor Rory shrieked, not caring that he had been stepped on a few times in the chaos. He lunged forward and stared at the charred parasite, wanting to cry but unable to shed tears. This only sample was gone. How heartrending it was. "Damn it, Professor Rory, what kind of research are you conducting? Is this what you call safe?" Not even detecting how dangerous this single parasite was, causing so many deaths, even the director was implicated. Mahat was uncontrollable with anger. Nearly 20 people had died here in a short time. An absolute blunder. Moritz was holding his arm, which had been accidentally wounded by a ricocheted bullet. "I'm all right. Hurry and check on super soldier Yuan Chenguang's condition." Moritz shouted, and a crowd rushed back into the laboratory, only to be met with more bad news. "Director, Yuan Chenguang is dead." The crowd was devastated. Since the symbiotic poisonous insect and the host were one, with the host's death, the symbiotic poisonous insect could not survive either. Similarly, with the death of the symbiotic poisonous insect, the host could not live on his own. As soon as this news was reported, it greatly enraged Moritz, who stared furiously at Rory. If it weren't for the other party's reckless surgery, they wouldn't have killed such a valuable sample. How was he going to explain this to the country? "This is a symbiotic insect. The symbiotic relationship between humans and insects. Such type of symbiotic relationship is also very rare in nature." Rory stood up, collected the charred parasite first and sent it into the laboratory for analysis and research, then pushed his glasses and made his analysis. "I think Jekka Company is much further ahead of us in the biological field. I need more samples and research data. Only then can we obtain this miraculous insect, gain stronger physiques, and even longer lifespans." Rory was not too reactive about the dead. His gaze still passionate, only pitying the loss of the material. Moritz, suppressing his anger, said with a reproachful tone, "It's because of your recklessness that we've suffered such a huge loss, now." Before Moritz could finish, Rory interrupted him. "I will personally report this matter to the country, Director Moritz. You will soon see a significant increase in funding, as most capitalists and interest groups in the country will be thrilled by it." Rory's words significantly alleviated Moritz's dissatisfaction. If they had full support from the country, his chances of dealing with Jekka Group would be much greater. Mande region. A large hospital, which had nearly completed construction, was halted and underwent redesign and reconstruction. Vast quantities of construction machinery and workers moved in, initiating feverish building activity. The number of workers gathered here was even greater than before, with piles of steel and concrete stacked up on the site. The workers, wearing safety helmets, directed large dump trucks filled with sand and soil and enormous cranes that came from afar, while the roaring sounds of various heavy machinery filled the air. As the project continuously progressed, some workers began installing windows and doors, breathing life into the building. However, the previously pristine white exterior walls of the hospital were now painted in darker, more somber hues, exuding a slightly eerie vibe. Su Jie, accompanied by Chen Yaoguang, walked through the bustling construction site, followed by several engineers. These engineers, hailing from Hua Country, were members of the China Construction Third Bureau. Hua Country was known as a construction-frenzy nation. With enough money, their building speed was unquestionable. What's the projected timeline for completion based on the current pace? Su Jie looked up at the repurposed hospital, with its surroundings also undergoing extensive expansion, aiming to create a vast-scale ghost house. Since the hospital was nearly finished originally, only some light renovations remain. With workers operating in 3 shifts around the clock, the first phase of the project could be completed in about half a month and initially put to use. The larger-scale second and third phases of the project, involving an area of over 6,000 acres, will require more time to build progressively. The site's chief engineer answered respectfully. This massive ghost house spanned over 6,000 acres, almost as large as Tsinghua University, with only a small part completed so far. That's reasonable timing. Su Jie nodded. The sooner the ghost house was built, the earlier they could open and start harvesting the emotions of fear, which Su Jie valued highly. In Su Jie's vision, the future ghost house would rival Shanghai's Disneyland, which, despite only being open for 7 to 8 years, had already accommodated over 100 million visitors. Chen Yaoguang handed over some documents and interjected. Mr. Su, according to your instructions, we have already placed advertisements on multiple promotion platforms to boost awareness for the ghost house. We've also contacted various travel groups and spent a lot on several internet bloggers who will help promote it when the time comes. However, do we really need to offer such a huge prize? If someone truly completes the Ghost House Challenge, this high reward of $1 million. Thinking of the advertisement Su Jie had demanded, Chen Yaoguang still found it unbelievable to this day. At Su Jie's behest, Jeka Company had invested an immense amount in advertising and set up exorbitant prize money for successful challengers, which, in Chen Yaoguang's view, seemed almost like throwing money into the water. Are we lacking money? Su Jie smiled. To him, money was not an issue at all, at least for now. Jeka Company now makes over $1 billion in revenue each month. Our cash flow is substantial. Chen Yaoguang said immediately, understanding Su Jie's intention. However, he still couldn't grasp why, even with ample funds, they needed to splurge on a ghost house. Compared to amusement parks, a ghost house was a niche concept, and turning a profit to recover the initial investment was very challenging. Since we're not short of money, nothing else is a problem. I'm not planning to recoup the investment through the ghost house. This is my plan. I want to make Monday City the largest top-tier ghost house in the world, and I'm willing to invest billions of dollars to achieve that. Su Jie spoke calmly, of course not revealing the real reasons to Chen Yaoguang. Money is meant to be spent. The population in the Monday region is limited, totaling around 2 million, and the entire Chan country has only 50 million inhabitants. Unless it were mandatory for all citizens to visit the ghost house, it would be hard to ensure the volume of fear emotions Su Jie needed. Moreover, continuously having the same group of people entering the ghost house would acclimate them to fear, leading to a decrease in the emotions provided, which wasn't in line with Su Jie's expectations. To meet Su Jie's demands, he would need to attract more tourists to enter the ghost house. To achieve that, apart from gaining fame, offering attractive rewards was clearly the most effective. Su Jie, while walking on the construction site, pointed towards a large building on the left and said, "The ghost house will offer 5 levels of difficulties: ordinary, hard, nightmare, hell, and unsolvable. This building will be set at the ordinary level. The interiors should follow my design. If visitors successfully complete the challenge, they will be rewarded with $10,000. Hard will offer $50,000, nightmare $100,000, hell $300,000, and unsolvable level, a direct reward of $1 million. In Su Jie's plan, the ordinary level of the ghost house would only feature a first-grade fierce ghost. The hard level would see second grade, and Nightmare would include third-grade fierce ghosts. In the Hell level, the Lantern Ghost and Painting Woman would make an appearance. As for the Unsolvable level, once this massive ghost house was constructed, it would become the resting place for Ghost Bride. This Unsolvable level ghost house was planned as a venue for the Ghost Bride to relax and unwind. Normally, most individuals would be terrified out of their wits facing a real first-grade fierce ghost in the ordinary level. Who would be audacious enough to try the Unsolvable level? Other than Su Jie, those on the site inhaled sharply upon hearing this. This money will drive countless people crazy. Engineers from Hua Country murmured to themselves, noting that in Hua Country, the average yearly income was only $10,000. Yet here, all one needed to do was to successfully complete a haunted house of ordinary difficulty to earn a year's salary, which was incredibly tempting. Mr. Su, isn't there a limit? An engineer couldn't help but wonder, fearing that continuing this way would drain even the deepest coffers. As long as one has the skill, no matter how many people succeed, we won't miss a penny of the bonuses. With Jekka Company's reputation, you shouldn't be afraid of us defaulting on payments. Su Jie chuckled lightly, his voice casual as he mentioned that to Jekka Company. Flush with cash, such trifles were too small to be considered. Moreover, succeeding in the haunted house was certainly not as easy as they imagined. It required not only courage but also sufficient cunning, or else one would simply be delivering themselves up on a platter. That's impossible. A few engineers thought the same, knowing Jekka Company was famed as a potential top contender in the pharmaceutical industry once it went public. Their Tianyuan hair growth liquid was known around the world. $1 million was a massive wealth for an individual, but for a transnational pharmaceutical giant like Jekka Company, it really wasn't much. Old Chun, increase the investment in promotion, we can start heating up now. Su Jie instructed Chen Yaoguang, noting that half a month was plenty of time to get things sorted, and the training of personnel had already begun, let alone worrying about the employees who would act as ghosts in the haunted house. Mr. Su, you haven't come up with a name for this haunted house yet. What do you think of calling it? How about calling it Nightmare Park? I hope the visitors can experience a truly authentic and thrilling adventure here, Su Jie said thoughtfully, stroking his chin as he named the haunted house. That's a good name, very fitting, Chen Yaoguang agreed repeatedly, as if the name carried great significance, his flattery a bit too apparent. Su Jie shook his head smiling, then continued touring the construction site, sharing his plans with the engineers. Half an hour later, trouble found them first. Lu Yingying rushed out of her car, put on her hard hat, and walked up to Su Jie, whispering, "There's trouble, Su Jie." Su Jie gestured for Chen Yaoguang to leave, and, taking a hint, Chen led the engineers away. "Is it Beautiful Country making moves again?" Su Jie asked, knowing that his current enemy was none other than the Blue Star Dominator. Exactly. Just now, Beautiful Country announced a new round of sanctions against Chan Country's East Chin State, aiming to freeze Jekka Company's overseas bank channels and initiating a stricter trade embargo. Just half an hour ago, a cargo ship headed for Jike Port in East Chin State, laden with our industrial purchases, was seized by the Chan Country government navy claiming we were transporting illegal smuggled goods and demanding a fine of $30 million. In addition, Beautiful Country announced they would deploy a long-distance escort fleet, in collaboration with Temasek, Luzon, Siam, Jawa, Johor, Chan Country, and Japan, to combat the pirates in Mengjia Bay and maintain the safety of the route, clearly aiming at us, intending to block us on land. They also plan to make this escort a routine, creating an 8-nation security agreement led by Beautiful Country, forming an Asia-Pacific 8-nation alliance organization designed to stifle our development, Lu Yingying explained as she quickly showed the latest news to Su Jie. Su Jie looked down at the news with entries from various countries, though Japan's were the most conspicuous. As a loyal servant of Beautiful Country, openly signing a reciprocal military access agreement with Chan Country, the agreement would allow the Japan Self-Defense Forces to be deployed to Chan Country's territory in turns. Other countries simply send their navies, following behind Beautiful Country with their poorly maintained small frigates to boost morale. But only Japan was sending troops. They were truly audacious. Well, they seem to have forgotten the pain after a scar heals. Are they living too comfortably that they have never been beaten? Su Jie mused as he saw the Prime Minister of Japan's speech at the news conference on his phone, expressing their intent to provide Chan country with coastal radar systems, technical support for patrol boats to investigate illegal maritime smuggling routes, and assertively maintain Chan country's territorial integrity and national sovereignty against all dictatorial warlords and illegal elements. The news made Su Jie laugh. You think you can just step from Northeast Asia to create mischief in Southeast Asia? Look at you go. Yet, upon reflection, Su Jie wasn't surprised. Japan, as a country deeply controlled by Beautiful Country from top to bottom and hosting the most overseas military bases of Beautiful Country, was clearly playing the vanguard role this time. It seemed the last encounter had hurt Beautiful Country badly, leading them to skulk in the back this time and instead send Japan, their top lackey, to test the waters and provoke JECA Group. If JECA Group remained as fierce and formidable as before, it would be Japan that suffered. If JECA Group backed down, Beautiful Country, along with other countries, could push further and claim more benefits. Is there a deployment time mentioned? Su Jie put down the tablet and sat on a piece of stone, pulling Lu Yingying to sit down beside him. Japan plans to send 5,000 self-defense troops, saying that they aim to complete the deployment within 2 months, stationed along the line of Jinlao Mountain, Wu River, and Nangguan City in Ji State. Lu Yingying took out a map. East Chin State was to the west of Chan Country, bordered by Mengjia Bay to the left next to the sea, mountainous to the north with sparse population and poor land, and near Jiayin State to the east, where a group known as the East Ancient National Alliance Army held sway. And on the southern border with Ji State was the territory of the government army. The Japanese military, according to the plan, wanted to position its forces along the border between the government army and East Chin State. The difficulties facing JECA Group were clearly visible on the map. To the north, the land was barren. To the west, access to the sea was blocked. To the east lay the territories of other warlords, and to the south, an overtly hostile government army. It was like an invisible net aiming to trap JECA Company within East Chin State, forbidding any form of expansion by JECA Group and, it seemed, also planning to slowly squeeze the living space of JECA Company. Having seen the map, Su Jie had a clear understanding of the current situation. Su Jie, we released our prisoners too early. Beautiful Country doesn't seem to have any intention of reconciling with us. Lu Yingying's ample chest heaved with emotion, indignant at the shamelessness of Beautiful Country. It had been only 2 months since the last war ended and the peace agreement that had been reached was torn up in the blink of an eye, launching another round of trouble for JECA Group. The only difference was that this time Beautiful Country had learned its lesson. It didn't enter the fray directly, but brought a bunch of underlings to stir up trouble. It was rather like a bully who got beaten in a fight and came back the next day with a gang of friends, snarling and itching for revenge. Eagle's thuggish ways are nothing new. They've tasted blood here at our JECA Company. How could they possibly give up so easily? Su Jie sneered mockingly, having been mentally prepared for this for some time. Agreements were nothing more than toilet paper, easily torn apart in the face of hefty benefits. JECA Company, thanks to Tianyuan hair growth liquid, had made a fortune, now garnering daily net profits of over $200 million, just slightly trailing behind Apple Company. This astonishing capability to amass wealth, while sustaining the operation of JECA Company and Mu Hua Food Company's pig farming business in Hua Country, as well as subsidizing the development of East Chin State, was more than sufficient. Consider that the population of Chan Country, with over 50 million people, had a yearly GDP of just $60 billion, with a per capita GDP around $1,000. The entire country didn't earn as much as JECA Company. Based purely on net profits, JECA Group could rank among the top 5 corporations in the world. That was the reason why Beautiful Country just couldn't forget about JECA Company. A company that made short video apps for the internet already had Beautiful Country dropping all pretense of decorum. Imagine, then, a pharmaceutical giant like JECA Company. If captured, this feast would be enough to sate a host of capitalists. Luckily, Su Jie, you reminded us last time. We stored plenty of steel cement, machinery industry products, coal and oil in advance through trade. Plus, with our grain production, there won't be any problems for a year. Lu Yingying said with emotion. If it weren't for Su Jie's foresight, the situation in East Qin State could have been much worse. Up to today, Beautiful Country had also announced sanctions against East Qin State, and even brazenly brought it up to the United Nations for resolution, which, unsurprisingly, was vetoed by Hua Country and Russia. With sufficient interest, many national businesses are willing to trade with JECA Company, even if it means paying a premium. After all, not everyone cares about the face of Beautiful Country. But now it was different. With a group of underlings under the guise of naval protection, Beautiful Country was implementing de facto sanctions. Commercial vessels entering now risked being attacked or even sunk, severing JECA Group's trade routes. This is only temporary. Millions need our support. If we want true freedom, we need to break through this blockade line. Su Jie spread the map on the ground and picked up 2 stones. One placed on the Mengjia Bay to the west and the other on Ji State to the south where the government army was positioned. We have 2 options. With the blockade at sea here, after our last lesson with torpedoes, I reckon the escort fleet won't dare come close to the coast. It's hard for us to find them in the open sea, and we're not in a hurry about this blockade. Tianyuan Hair Growth Liquid now has a production factory in Mexico and can be partly self-sufficient. The rest we can smuggle through land transport and later through sea transport to Mexico. The ingredients for the hair growth liquid take up little space, they can't inspect it all. They can't stop our smuggling. To the East Ancient National Alliance Army, an alliance of 24 different ethnic groups, is a mess, and even if we took it over, they wouldn't side with us in the short term. Ji State here, on the other hand, might be worth a shot. Once those self-defense troops are deployed, we can start to get ready, aiming to take over this piece of fatty meat. Su Jie looked at the position of Ji State on the map, where the terrain of Chan Country grew increasingly forested and mountainous as you moved north, while the southern plains were relatively wider. For example, Yang City, the capital of Chan Country, located in the south, sat amidst the plains, which could support a population of 5 to 6 million people. The population in Ji State, under the control of the government army, was about 5 million. This was also one of the few industrial areas in Chan Country. Due to the presence of coal, iron ore, and oil fields in Ji State, many factories were established nearby to utilize these resources efficiently, ranking in the top 3 industrial zones within Chan Country. Ji State, that's a good place indeed. Lu Yingying nodded emphatically, confident in the strength of JECA security. During the last confrontation, even the military intervention by Beautiful Country had been sent packing in disarray. This time, facing Japan and the Chan Country government army, there's no reason they couldn't succeed. However, 2 months is too long. Since the Beautiful Country is causing trouble for us, it wouldn't be polite not to return the favor. As Su Jie said this, his tone turned grave. There's a score to settle with the Beautiful Country anyway. The disappearance of Ruan Qingguang you mentioned last time. There's no need to continue investigating it. Su Jie, do you have a lead? Lu Yingying was shocked. The disappearance of a first-class super soldier had alarmed everyone at JECA, mobilizing a vast amount of manpower and resources. But sadly, they had not found any clues. He's with the CIA, sent to the capital of Siam, Manchester, where they have an important division called JECA Group Intelligence Research and Report Office, focused specifically on our JECA. Su Jie spoke indifferently. As for where the intelligence came from, it was actually supplied by the enemy themselves. The CIA had planted many spies in Monday City. Some were locals who had been bribed. Others were their own agents, all monitoring JECA's operations. However, these watchers were in fact being watched by reconnaissance insects. In the days since Su Jie returned to Blue Star, he had been using the reconnaissance insects, gaining a lot of intelligence from the unwitting conversations between CIA agents and their colleagues and superiors, including information about Ruan Qingguang's disappearance. For this reason, Su Jie didn't make a move against those agents spying on JECA. They had become an important source of intelligence for him. These bastards. Clenching her silver teeth, Lu Yingying had complete trust in Su Jie. Hearing this answer, Lu Yingying didn't doubt its authenticity at all, because the CIA was always like this. But Su Jie, since they've placed their headquarters in Siam, the defenses there must be very tight. Should we dispatch the steel camp for a raid? Having shared a bed with Su Jie for so long, Lu Yingying was well aware of his character. From the tone of Su Jie's voice, it was not difficult to infer that he planned to make a move on the CIA. But Siam was, after all, not Chan country. It was a bit remote, and digging an underground tunnel there quickly would be difficult. Besides, after dealing with Jekka for so long, the CIA couldn't possibly be unprepared for Jekka's super soldiers. Making a rash move could lead to a successful attack, but the losses might be heavy. We won't use the steel camp this time. Let them continue their training. To deal with these CIA rats from the sewers, we'll use killers that are even darker and more terrifying than they are, and strike back at them. A cold curve appeared on Su Jie's lips as he looked towards the under-construction Nightmare Park, saying coldly, "Just in time, before the opening of this ghost house. Let the employees practice and do a trial run to avoid becoming rusty." Lu Yingying blinked her beautiful, large eyes, not quite understanding what Su Jie meant. Fortunately, she was very sensible and didn't ask further questions. It was her job to help manage Jekka, and Su Jie had his own plans. More secrets that Su Jie did not disclose, she would never probe into. Su Jie touched Lu Yingying's cheek and asked, "Almost forgot to ask. Yingying, have you chosen targets for the movie production and distribution companies?" Su Jie had entrusted the film production preparations to Lu Yingying. "We've surveyed numerous film production, distribution companies, and theater chains, mainly focusing on Asia. We plan to buy several at once and integrate them into a new matrix for film production, distribution, and theaters. In the future, depending on the circumstances, we'll break into the market in Europe and America. But there, due to strong protectionism and constant exclusion of Jekka, breaking into that market will be a bit difficult." Lu Yingying picked up the documents, which contained the names of the companies slated for acquisition, their operational situations, and the estimated funds needed. "Decide on these yourself. It's not like it's going to cost much." For Su Jie, it was no big deal. After all, the global box office market combined didn't match Jekka's annual revenue. Such a market segment wasn't worth the effort for Jekka. They could simply throw money around and create a film industry behemoth. As for losses, Su Jie could well afford them. His foray into films was to promote the horror movie starring the Ghost Bride, with the aim not to harvest box office returns but to absorb fear emotions. When the time came to attract an audience, even if it meant price wars and substantial ticket subsidies, half price or even free tickets, Su Jie could do it with ease. "Then I'll arrange the acquisitions. The current entertainment market is indeed thriving. It's not too late for us to enter now." Lu Yingying nodded in agreement, thinking that Su Jie was interested in the entertainment market. Although the market was not large, the monthly earnings of Jekka were too frightening. With so much money they couldn't spend, it would just sit in accounts and devalue. In that case, it would be better to invest more broadly across industries, optimizing asset allocation and improving Jekka's influence and risk resistance. After discussing with Lu Yingying for a while and arranging the upcoming plans for Jekka, Su Jie prepared for the potential conflicts to come. Having done all this, Su Jie rose unhurriedly, ready to set off for Monday City, Mexico border. Adjacent to the beautiful country, the terrain here featured sparse vegetation with the earth showing hues of yellow and brown, gullies and woodlands resembling the wrinkles of an elderly man. A gust of wind blew, lifting dust and sand into the sky. Amidst the swirling dust, a building encompassing over a dozen acres stood resilient against the sandy storm. This was a border checkpoint of the beautiful country, surrounded by a multitude of ragged individuals who roamed aimlessly like soulless husks, utterly devoid of vitality. Due to the border wall and wire fencing, a significant number of illegal immigrants lingered here every day. These illegal immigrants hoped to infiltrate the beautiful country by any means, to breathe in the air of freedom and sweetness. Unfortunately, the border wall cut off their passage, and now they could only wander on the Mexican side, constantly devising ways to sneak across. As the saying goes, where there's demand, there's opportunity. Some gangs from Mexico and the beautiful country set their sights on this business, earning commissions by smuggling people across the border. Each serpent has its path. Each rat has its route. These local snakes were well acquainted with the terrain, often knowing where to smoothly slip between the borders of the two countries. These smuggling heads were joyously raking in the extra cash. However, during this period, the situation began to change. The local snakes discovered an even more profitable business: smuggling Tianyuan hair growth liquid. What's the money in poor illegal immigrants? The wealthy don't need to smuggle their way in. They've long since immigrated legally and above board. But Tianyuan hair growth liquid was different. It was a tiny commodity priced at $300 a bottle, extremely popular within the beautiful country, selling out instantly. Those suffering from hair loss who used it once found it hard to ever go without this miraculous shampoo. All they needed to do was obtain their supply from the Tijuana Group, bring it into the beautiful country, and they could reap astonishing profits. A single small bottle of Tianyuan hair growth liquid could garner a profit of $60 to $70. Light in weight and small in volume, a person could easily carry dozens or even hundreds of bottles, earning several thousand US dollars from a single run. Some more diligent ones could make 2 trips a day. As a result, the local snakes ingeniously devised a new method for transporting goods. That was to have the people they were smuggling also carry a box of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, forgoing the smuggling fee and instead secretly bringing them into the beautiful country. This tactic also caused the border police of the beautiful country significant distress and anger. In the past, they dealt with body smuggling of drugs, but now, keeping up with the times, they used the same method to transport Tianyuan hair growth liquid, which was utterly despicable. Within the border checkpoint, Laras Petrovich tugged at his stifling hot uniform and with a quick snap of his belt, whipped it fiercely across a smuggler, adding a new bloody welt to their body. "I don't know, please stop hitting me. I really don't know." The beaten smuggler was a Latin American woman in her 30s, her cries and screams already hoarse. "Tell me, where's the meeting place with the Tijuana Group? Where do they distribute the goods to you?" Laras bellowed, his face a shade of heated red, his stubbled beard trembling as if he were an enraged lion. "I don't have any, I don't know. The snake head has already run away." "What Tijuana Group? I've never heard of it. I just carried a box in as instructed by the snake head." The Latin American woman cried miserably, and it was fortunate that no media reporters were present. Otherwise, this would have surely become headline news in the beautiful country. "Damn. Do you even know what you're carrying? You just do whatever they tell you to do?" Laras looked annoyed. Ever since Tianyuan hair growth liquid was banned in the beautiful country, it had caused a series of problems, and smuggling had become increasingly severe. Initially, the Tijuana Group personally handled the transportation of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, but as the beautiful country clamped down with a heavy hand, deploying police dogs, helicopters, and military scouts, they also infiltrated and bribed to gather intelligence, destroying many of the Tijuana Group's smuggling tunnels used exclusively at the border. Later on, the Tijuana Group began to lay low, but this did not reduce the amount of smuggling. Instead, they distributed the profits among other gangs and the public, involving them in the smuggling. Although smuggling without the tunnels didn't match previous volumes, a single spark can start a prairie fire. The number of smugglers and the amount smuggled were too vast. The beautiful country was at a loss, unable to detain these people for long, as many were illegal immigrants and smugglers, possessing nothing. To this day, the Tijuana Group remained a thorn in the side of these border officers. The emergence of Tianyuan hair growth liquid had significantly increased their anti-smuggling pressure, with endless tasks day and night. The Latin American woman who was beaten and yelled at offered no response. She lowered her head, and Laras's expression changed. He reached to check for breath and felt nothing. This smuggler, already weakened by the long journey and the recent beating, had not survived. "Bad luck." Laras spat out and prepared to have the body taken away for burial. As for resuscitation, there was no need. It would have been a futile waste of medical resources. It's common knowledge how expensive medical care is in the beautiful country. An uninsured smuggler hoping for medical treatment was nothing but trouble. Moreover, smugglers here have no one to rely on. Even if they die, nobody cares. Whether smuggling Tianyuan hair growth liquid or before its time, the beautiful country's police had never regarded these smugglers as human beings. Under Lars' summoning, a doctor walked into the interrogation room, seemingly unfazed by the scene of torture. After a brief check, he wrote on the report, "Died of sudden cardiac death due to heart disease," and stamped it. "Let's have a drink sometime." Lars, smiling, patted the doctor on the shoulder, walked out of the interrogation room, and gulped down some water. Shortly after, colleagues from other interrogation rooms appeared one by one, their outcome similar. The real smugglers had escaped long ago. Those guys knew the terrain well and slipped away as fast as rabbits. They had returned empty-handed once again. "Lars, any results on your end?" A colleague looked up and greeted him. "No, tough nuts to crack. Those Tijuana bastards have turned into turtles, only daring to hide behind Mexico and spread their goods. If I knew their whereabouts, I'd stuff their heads right up their asses." Lars cursed angrily, his frustration evident. Hearing Lars's complaint, the surrounding officers burst into laughter. "Ha ha! Good idea, Lars. I'd love to see those bastards suffer. Tijuana Group just knows how to hide and seek all day, and those CIA folks are so useless. Haven't found their boss Carter even after all this time. It's a pity we don't see members of Tijuana around anymore. Otherwise, I would let them experience my marksmanship." The group continued to joke and laugh, but suddenly, a cacophony erupted from outside, sounding like 800 ducks quacking. "Those illegal immigrants are causing a ruckus again, trying to breach the barbed wire and run over here." Lars set down his water bottle, adjusted his holster, and grabbed a baton, walking out aggressively. But as soon as he exited the interrogation building, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. A helicopter was flying above, its metal body shimmering in the sunlight. The Gatling gun beneath its belly was rotating, spewing out a lengthy, dazzling flame, the source of the noisy ruckus he heard. Bang! 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 Countless bullets rained down, creating a metallic storm at this border checkpoint. Many beautiful country policemen who couldn't react in time were torn apart by the bullets, limbs flew, and the ground was stained red with blood. A bullet grazed over Lars's scalp, causing goosebumps all over his body, and he immediately came back to his senses, shouting in panic, "Ambush! Ambush!" Although he didn't need to shout, the entire border checkpoint was already alarmed. These beautiful country policemen were suppressed by the firepower and had difficulty shooting back. They could only look for rocket launchers and individual air defense missiles while calling for backup. Due to the special nature of the border checkpoint, these border guards were not lacking in firepower. Especially after the emergence of the Tijuana organization, they had intensified their armament. Virum, virum. The roaring of vehicles approached as a dozen armored trucks charged to the border checkpoint. Men in red bandanas wearing bulletproof vests, camouflage military uniforms, and helmets, armed with AK-47s, jumped down from the trucks and without hesitation, pulled the triggers upon seeing the beautiful country policemen. At the connection between the truck's cab and the rear, a heavy machine gun added there vibrated crazily with its long bullet chain, its fierce firepower resonating a symphony of metal and gunpowder, accompanied by spurting blood, sending chills down one's spine. "It's the Tijuana Group. They are here." Lars, witnessing the scene, instantly recognized the assailant's identity. These individuals exhibited military training traces and wore uniformed outfits. Their firepower was so fierce, they could only be members of the Tijuana organization, deemed by the beautiful country as an extreme terrorist group. Fire back now. Where are the reinforcements? We need support, ground forces, air support, anything. Hurry up and help us. No good. The enemy's firepower is too fierce. They are so strong. The policemen at the beautiful country border checkpoint still wanted to return fire and fight. Those allocated to such a dangerous place like the border were surely skilled, not just loafers. Normally, despite being caught off guard, relying on their training and marksmanship, dealing with scattered Tijuana fighters should have been easy. But they quickly realized they were not fighting a disorganized, undisciplined band of extremists. Most people had military training, but among them, some members were even stronger than the elite special forces in the army, with incredibly precise marksmanship, agile and ferocious movements, and senses as sharp as a swift. Many brave police officers who dared to retaliate had just peeked their heads out when they were accurately shot in the head, their brains spilling hot and white all over the ground. They are super soldiers. They have taken strengthening pills. Jekka Company gave them strengthening pills. The many beautiful country police officers below were still unclear as to how these Tijuana members were so proficient with guns. But the head of the checkpoint turned deathly pale. He had some connections in Beautiful Country and was aware of Beautiful Country's defeat in Chan Country. This included information about strengthening pills and super soldiers. Right now, those 5 or 6 adept enemies had definitely taken strengthening pills. Otherwise, they couldn't possibly possess such inhuman speed and neurological reaction. Although to the head officer, these super soldiers were not wearing heavy armor, nor were they carrying vehicle-mounted Gatlings or large-caliber machine guns, the most terrifying type of first-class super soldiers. However, their border checkpoint was not a regular military fortified with heavy armaments. These third-class and second-class super soldiers relying just on marksmanship and physical capabilities were more than enough to crush them. Soon, each Beautiful Country police officer was shot until they dared not show their heads, hiding inside the buildings shivering, just like quails. Fortunately, the border checkpoint was solidly constructed with reinforced concrete and heavy steel doors, built to the specifications of a wartime fortress. As long as they did not wish to go out, it was quite safe. Bang, bang, bang. Faced with this situation, members of the Tijuana group chose not to storm in but began clearing out those Beautiful Country police officers who hadn't entered the buildings. Hurry! Open the door! Let me in! Laras roared, his eyes bloodshot and red, continuously banging on the door. He had stormed out of the interrogation building just moments ago and now wanted back in. But his colleagues and comrades had already shut the door. It's Lara's voice. Open the door. Don't. Do you want to let those terrifying guys in? Don't open the door. Anyone who dares open it, I'll blow their head off. The faint sounds of argument from inside suddenly turned Lara's red with rage. He cursed loudly. Shit. You bunch of shitty cowards and traitors. Open the damn door now or I'll blow your guts out. Laras, don't blame us. We don't want you to get us killed. Yeah, Laras, it's time to show your bravery. Go fight. Didn't you say that Tijuana is all turtles hiding in their shells, wanting to shove their heads up their asses? Sacrifice one for the good of all, Laras. Don't you have any courage to sacrifice yourself? Inside the room, after a moment of silence, the voices of his colleagues and comrades mocking him followed. Laras was uncontrollably furious, howling, I will kill you bastards. I mean it. I'll kill all of you. But as Laras was still howling, footsteps and the sound of guns being loaded came from behind him. Laras turned around in terror, a cold gun barrel pressed against his forehead, and a pair of chilling eyes. Don't kill! Before he could finish pleading, the bullet had penetrated his skull, his brain matter and blood splattering onto the door behind him. The super soldier, holding Lara's limp body, dipped his finger in the blood and wrote a line on the door. Similar scenes occurred in many places around the checkpoint. These Beautiful Country police officers kept hiding, daring not to show themselves until this group of Tijuana members had long departed and support arrived. Then the people inside cautiously opened the doors and came out. What comes around goes around. If the enemy advances, so will I. The game has only just begun. The lines written with blood all over the checkpoint, some in English, some in Chinese, and seeing these, each of the police officers' faces turned extremely grim. This act of mass slaughter and flagrant provocation, considering themselves superior as the world's dominating power, made them nearly explode with rage. Never had they seen such an audacious and arrogant organization. Not even Al-Qaeda dared to do so. To kill and then trample on the dignity of Beautiful Country. Manchester, Moritz received a call from the CIA headquarters back home that day. When the video communication opened, appearing on the computer screen was Moritz's direct supervisor, Judith, the deputy director of the CIA. After the video connection was established, Judith's face was gloomy, like the sky dense with dark clouds. "Boss, your expression, what happened?" A sense of alarm struck Moritz's heart. He wondered if he had recently done something wrong to offend his immediate superior. Tijuana has been provocatively challenging us at the Mexico border over the past 2 days, causing multiple bloody incidents, with significant casualties on the side of the border police. Just before this video conference with you, the military and the White House were questioning how the CIA operates, how we failed to detect any intelligence. Moritz, can you answer me? Judith pulled out a stack of photos, her gaze sharp as a blade, staring intensely at Moritz, applying pressure. Looking at the photos of the killed border police and the provocative writing in blood on the walls, Moritz felt an inexplicable sting in his heart, a sense of infuriation as if he experienced it himself. But as a former veteran agent, Moritz quickly regained his calm. "Boss, this is JECA Group's response to our recent actions. Our establishment of the Asia-Pacific 8-Nation Alliance has angered JECA Group," Moritz said in a steady voice, quickly understanding the reasons behind it. The beautiful country's pressure on JECA Group led them to use the Tijuana Group, which they supported in Mexico, to cause trouble at the beautiful country's border as a form of retaliation. However, we cannot retreat. The more they show their fury and try to use bloodshed to intimidate us, the more it shows that we have indeed hit their sore spot. We should not only keep up the blockade against JECA Group, but also increase our efforts. Moritz's speech grew faster, not because he harbored deep hatred for JECA Group. It was because the existence of JECA Group obstructed the nation's interests and had to be eliminated. "The higher-ups are very dissatisfied with your performance. So much funding has been spent with little to show for it. Tell me, do you have any high-value intelligence recently?" In response to Moritz's analysis, Judith nodded slightly. A ceasefire was out of the question. These losses would not intimidate the beautiful country. The beautiful country had sustained significant casualties in the Middle East and the Vietnam War as well, but managed to endure. Although eventually withdrawing in defeat, they at least held out for several years. "There's a new discovery." Moritz produced a stack of documents, the photos on them showing a construction site undergoing renovation. Recently, JECA Group has been ostentatiously working on some ghost house, earmarking several thousand acres of land, with unclear intentions. Did the satellites pick up anything? Judith immediately perked up and conjectured. Could it be that under the guise of building a ghost house, they're actually planning to deploy missile bases, radar, and military facilities? JECA Group has the world's top underground excavation technology. We cannot afford to be complacent. So far, there has been no such discovery. Satellites and our agents have been monitoring the area, and the vehicles entering and leaving aren't military, but we do not rule out new developments following. We will continue to watch. "Boss, to prevent future problems, we should cut off JECA Group's external military supply routes to facilitate future warfare," Moritz responded. He felt that JECA Group wouldn't invest so much effort into constructing a ghost house. It was likely a cover for other purposes. Moritz was concerned that if the other side deployed radar and missiles, JECA Group always acted like a nouveau riche, similar to those from the Middle East with their turbans, who liked to spend money to buy what they couldn't produce themselves. "I will notify the Navy to intensify the naval blockade. Even if it's Russian vessels trying to breach, have them directly detained." Judith gave her reliable right-hand man a guarantee. In the last clash with JECA Group, the CIA had discovered that most of JECA Group's armaments were Russian models. The old Russians have been opposed to the beautiful country for so many years, with these two foes continuing their rivalry since the Cold War. Those Slavs have always upheld a principle. Any organization or power that displeases the beautiful country definitely gets support from us, the Russians. After discussing this matter, Judith suddenly brought up another topic. "Moritz, regarding the lab, you need to be more attentive and provide more support to their research." Upon hearing this, Moritz subconsciously said, "Boss, did those scientists tattle on me?" "That's hardly the case." Judith waved her hand off, explaining, "You know that behind those scientists stand the various pharmaceutical giants, with complex intertwined relationships and interests. Now, those companies have been piqued by strengthening pill and parasites, looking to research something related to longevity. They've also provided us at the CIA with significant operational funds. So it's in our best interest to produce some results to avoid allegations of collecting money without doing work. That strengthening pill does not extend life. It only temporarily enhances the body after ingestion. The same principle applies to parasites. Just think, having such a creature lying on your heart, sucking your blood and nutrients, definitely won't lead to longevity. It might even reduce lifespan. Moritz looked speechless. Those tycoons were just afraid of death. They used to be keen on investing in cutting-edge life sciences, studying things like anti-aging drugs, telomeres, genetic engineering, and so on. Now that they've seen something new at Jekka Company, they've heatedly shifted their focus to longevity, but these two matters don't relate at all. Judith lit a cigarette, tapped the table, and said with a faint smile, "Moritz, it's fine if you just say this to me, but don't go public with it. If they knew the truth, would they still sponsor so much funding for our CIA activities? What we need is to stir up their desires, show them the hope for longevity, so that our funding for next year will be even more substantial. You're not yet at my level and don't need to worry about the countless CIA members' needs around the globe. Doesn't each one require money? The appropriations from Congress are only enough to maintain the status quo, not to provide any benefits for us. Since those wealthy capitalists have money, let them bleed a bit more. It can be considered helping national construction, rather than letting their money go to waste in foundations for tax avoidance." Moritz understood, recalling one of the sources of CIA funding involved drug trafficking activities. This highlighted the CIA's thirst for money, and he suddenly fell silent. "Moritz, do well, and once the Jekka Group is dealt with, you might just take my place. Then you'll understand that at our level, how strong the decision-making is, whether the mind is sharp or if one has great talent isn't really that important. What counts is how much funding you can bring to the department, how much money you can secure, making the CIA's budget prosper, and then everyone will really acknowledge your capabilities." Judith left a thought-provoking comment and hung up the video conference. "That's politics." Moritz shook his head, spaced out for a few seconds, and then went to call someone over. "Mahet, prepare to plan a new round of operations and capture a few more first-class super soldiers." Moritz tried to keep his voice as calm as possible, but his words still made the field operations director across from him, Mahet, frown. Mahet shook his head repeatedly, expressing his difficulties. "Director, this is too risky. Nowadays, Jekka Group has set up a steel camp specifically for these first-class super soldiers. They move mistressly and hardly show up, staying only at Jekka Security's military base for training. Capturing Ruan Qingguang last time was an accident. We can't always succeed. Of course, I know it's not easy, which is why I'm just asking you to look for opportunities." Moritz didn't explain further. He couldn't ignore the demands from above. Just have someone investigate the family situation of these super soldiers more. If possible, start from this aspect and actively get these first-class super soldiers out of the barracks. Kidnap their family members to lure them out? This indeed is a method, but considering Ruan Qingguang's previous experience, Jekka Group will definitely protect those family members more rigorously. Targeting family members didn't cause much hesitation in Mahet, as CIA's interests outweigh these personal ethics. In the past, the CIA was too familiar with these deplorable methods. Kidnapping, assassinations, bribing, bombing civilians, overthrowing foreign governments, inciting racial hatred leading to massacres. These activities were like daily meals for CIA. Keep trying. There will definitely be a loophole. I'll have the intelligence department assist you," Moritz said, and then he thought of something else. Besides the family members of those super soldiers, also start monitoring the families of Jekka Company's top management. In necessary moments, this will become our bargaining chip. Jekka Group's real top leaders are Chinese. Their families are mostly in Hua country. If we operate there, Mahet hesitated, then added, "The main thing is, the behind-the-scenes controller of Jekka Group, Su Jie, is a loner without weaknesses to exploit. I don't think capturing Lu Yingying and Chen Yaoguang will make him compromise. It might only lead to even more terrifying retaliatory actions." Damn, This really is a tough nut to crack. Moritz also felt a headache. JECA Group was truly the CIA's #1 enemy now. The usual methods of assassination and kidnapping were obviously hard to execute on JECA Group. Anyway, prepare everything well. Whether or not it's successful, it's always good to be prepared. Eventually, Moritz just waved his hand, telling Mahet to proceed with the operation preparations. Oh, Manchester, the capital of Siam country. This is a modern metropolis, with towering buildings and glass facades reflecting dazzling sunlight. On both sides of the street, pedestrians were weaving through traffic, cars shuttling back and forth, and the sound of horns echoed continuously. At this time, around noon, a man and a woman emerged from the airport on the city's edge, and the scorching heat enveloped them as they walked out. These two were none other than Su Jie and the ghost bride, Han Ruyan. Looking at the endless city skyline in the distance, and the bustling streets and skyscrapers, Su Jie felt reflective. Though they are neighboring countries with similar geographical locations, the disparity in development is vast. The destruction brought by wars has been severe. Siam is a major country in Southeast Asia, with a population similar to Chan country, and both are the first and second largest countries in the Southeast Asia Peninsula, but their economies and development differ greatly. With a population of over 60 million and an annual GDP exceeding $500 billion, Siam's economy is almost 10 times that of Chan country. This is evident from the capital, Manchester, which is one of the few international metropolises in Southeast Asia. It hosts the headquarters of the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, the World Bank, the World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization, and more than 20 other international agencies. Its tourism industry is highly developed, earning it the nickname, the City of Angels, with everything you could wish for. The stable situation in Siam since its establishment has led to rapid economic growth, while the continuous internal conflicts in Chan country have seriously hindered its development. To this day, Chan country is still mired in civil war and de facto division, and although it borders Siam, it appears like a poor boy standing next to a rich man's son. In terms of national strength and international status, the two are incomparably unequal. When do we kill? Han Ruyan stood next to Su Jie, her voice chilling, her aura of a fierce ghost repelling any passers-by from coming too close. Don't rush. It's rare for us to travel outside. I'll take you around here to appreciate the beauty of a big city. Su Jie lovingly intended to pat Han Ruyan's head, but was met with her deep, still gaze from beneath her sunglasses. I'm not interested in these worldly affairs. Seeing Su Jie retract his hand, Han Ruyan also shifted her gaze away. Su Jie had a bit of a headache as Han Ruyan, having become a fierce ghost, had lost many human emotions and lacked the spectrum of feelings. Sawadee ka. Do sir and madam need a place to stay? My name is Nong Lan. I'm a tour guide well-versed with Manchester's tourist attractions and venues. You are from Hua country, right? I know many tourist areas that Hua country people love to visit. At the airport entrance, a young Siam woman approached with her hands pressed together, eagerly introducing her services in Chinese with a slight accent. Su Jie looked at her and said, "Your name is Nong Lan, right? How did you know we are from Hua country?" Hua country people have a different aura. Many Hua country people come to our country for tourism, and I have hosted many Hua country tourists. Your demeanor is very distinct, easily recognizable. Nong Lan sensed from Su Jie's tone that she would probably land the business. Then lead the way. Take us to the best hotel here. Su Jie chuckled softly, handing over a stack of bills. Ensure we eat well and have fun. You will be well tipped. This is for you. Nong Lan's eyes lit up with surprise, knowing she had encountered a wealthy client, and her enthusiasm increased. Sir, madam, please follow me. I promise you won't be disappointed, and you will enjoy both playing and dining. Nong Lan ran to the roadside and flagged down a taxi. Su Jie, holding Han Ruyan's cold, jade-like hand, got into the cab, watching the passing traffic. As he contrasted it with the CIA's base in Siam in his mind, his gaze grew colder. Su Jie had spent 2 days in Manchester, taking Han Ruyan on a tour around the area. In his spare time, Su Jie also used the insect control technique to gather the intelligence he needed. 2 days later, under the cover of night, Su Jie and Han Ruyan arrived at the Siam CIA base. This base was located in a very remote area. The few nearby residences had been relocated, making it appear exceptionally desolate. The base had been converted from a military base. During the Vietnam War in the last century, the beautiful country built numerous military bases in Siam for logistical support and rest. After the war ended, the beautiful country gradually reduced its military presence in Siam. Some military bases were handed over to the Siam military, while others were slowly abandoned. The CIA base facing the JECA Affairs Bureau was one such base. Fortunately, the military bases constructed during the war used genuine materials, so even after so many years, a little renovation made them reusable, avoiding many complications of new construction. 2 hours later, Su Jie and Han Ruyan stood on a mountaintop, smiling as they gazed at the brightly lit base at the horizon. "My lady, let your ghosts out to have a good time with the humans over there." At his words, Han Ruyan's red wedding dress shimmered, and the heavenly ghost map flew out of her palm, fluttering in the mid-air. One ghost after another began to emerge, quietly standing in front of Han Ruyan, waiting for her commands. Among them were weaker first-grade fierce ghosts, as well as fifth-grade fierce ghosts like the painting woman lantern ghost. "Go and wreak havoc." With a ghostly tone, Han Ruyan injected numerous spirit stones into these fierce ghosts to prevent their bodies from disintegrating in a spiritless environment. The moment her words fell, the ghosts understood their targets and vanished one by one into the night. Following Su Jie's earlier hint, Han Ruyan fixed her gaze on the base. The heavenly ghost map transformed into a flower sedan chair, taking both her and Su Jie on board. Late at night, under the moonlight, Jill Yawning was on guard duty. He was stationed in a high-tower lookout, equipped with an M2 Browning heavy machine gun and a searchlight in operation. The tower overlook was adjacent to the base's perimeter wall and entrance, with several soldiers patrolling with guard dogs below. They were not CIA agents but were from the beautiful country's military base in Siam, reassigned here to assist. Given the ferocity of the JECA group, relying solely on the CIA agents wasn't feasible. The military was also deeply involved in securing the base, enhancing safety measures. After all, the JECA group had a history of attacking the CIA, having once deployed heavy artillery to bombard CIA personnel in Mexico without military protection, which would have been very dangerous. "Buck, my fiancé just messaged me. Once I'm done with my assignment here at CIA, I'm going back home to get married." To shake off sleepiness, Jill spoke to his buddy nearby with a bragging tone. "What, you're getting married so soon?" Buxton's gaze immediately turned towards him, full of envy. He had seen photos of Jill's fiancé, a blonde, blue-eyed Caucasian beauty with outstanding looks. "Heh. If it hadn't been for being assigned here at CIA, I would have gone back last month to get married. All because of that damn JECA group." Jill chuckled, his eyes lighting up as he mentioned his wedding. "Then let me congratulate you in advance. Too bad I can't attend your wedding." What's that?" Buxton was adjusting a high-power searchlight while speaking when something in the corner of his eye caught his attention, prompting him to quickly reposition the searchlight. The glaring beam of the searchlight enveloped the area in front of the base, illuminating the dark land. In the dead silence, a strange series of footsteps arose, and a figure was illuminated. It was an incredibly tall figure, probably 2 meters in height, dressed in ancient attire and carrying a white lantern. As the night wind blew, the lantern swayed and emitted a ghostly glow. The air seemed to carry an ominous vibe, and the figure slowly lifted the lantern, staring straight back. Buxton was about to call out, but suddenly his eyes dimmed. The searchlight he controlled snapped off, along with the lights at the watchtower, which flickered before extinguishing suddenly. "What's happening, Buxton? What did you shine the light on? Why are the lights out? Did someone fire and hit the searchlight?" Jill's sleepiness vanished instantly, his body tensed, and he immediately started to load the machine gun. "Damn it, such a piece of crap. It's so cumbersome to load this antique. My grandfather operated an M2 during his service, My father operated it during his, and here I am still operating an M2. Can't those old guys in Congress approve some upgrades? In the pitch darkness, Jill fumbled in his haste, struggling to properly load the steel chains as he swore continuously and called out to Buxton. Buddy, get the lights back on here. Fix the searchlight. I can't shoot without seeing the enemy. His voice was met with no response, except for the light suddenly coming back on, brightening the watchtower area. Now Gil efficiently loaded the M2 machine gun, pulled the bolt, and aimed the barrel at the empty space outside the base. Phew, let's see who's causing trouble. Buxton, have you fixed the searchlight yet? As he spoke, Jill turned his head, but that look almost scared him senseless. Buxton's body was stiff, his skin resembling white candle wax, slowly melting as a wick on his head burned fiercely, lighting up the watchtower area. This horrifying scene dumbfounded Jill. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief and reached out to touch Buxton, his friend. As his palm made contact with the other's body, it sank in. The body was incredibly fluffy, no longer possessing the normal flesh and blood of a human. God, what is this? What the hell is this? Jill's lips trembled, as if he had seen a ghost, feeling an unprecedented fear of everything happening before him. Stop! I told you to stop. This area is a military zone. Keep it smart. I'll open fire if you move any closer. Who is this idiot? Never mind, open fire. Just then, Jill heard the patrolling soldiers below getting agitated, with the sound of gunfire erupting. Jill, unconcerned with what was happening with Buxton, firmly grasped the handle of the M2 heavy machine gun, swung the muzzle around, and prepared to attack those unknown enemies attempting to break into the base. Bang! A flare shot up, its parachute scattering brilliant light, illuminating everything within a kilometer radius. Immediately thereafter, Jill saw several figures with slow steps approaching the base. They were both men and women, with vacant and numb expressions. The bullets from other soldiers already hit these audacious folks. Just when Jill thought these people would fall, something unexpected happened. The figures, seemingly without any sensation, barely paused in their movements and continued towards the base at an unhurried pace. Damn! These people aren't afraid of bullets? These are not human. They definitely are not human. You dumbass! Haven't you ever watched a zombie movie? These people's stiff, weird movements, they must be zombies, you've got to shoot them in the head. The soldiers were somewhat panicked. Jill took a deep breath, aimed at one approaching figure, and decisively pulled the trigger. Bang! 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 The 12.7mm caliber heavy machine gun was absolutely a lethal weapon on the battlefield, human bodies being as fragile as straw in front of its might, easily torn apart. However, the result shocked all the soldiers present, as the bullets hit a figure in the front. It was a wobbly man whose skin appeared as if soaked in water, swollen and rotting to an unnaturally immense size, with weeds and rotten fish and shrimp hanging off his body, which was why the soldiers mistook him for a zombie. Each bullet pierced through the man, raising dust from the ground, and his body sported several holes the size of large bowls. Instead of flesh, his interior was filled with sludge, river clams, snail shells, and miscellaneous items. After being attacked, the man paused his movement momentarily, then suddenly opened his mouth, seemingly uttering a strange, murmuring sound. The water is so dark. As the sound echoed, the bodies of a dozen soldiers began to shake violently, rapidly rotting and swelling, transforming into giants like the man, their lives disappearing in an instant as their bodies changed. Devil! This is a devil! Some of the survivors, whose pupils dilated in rapid fear, turned and ran in terror. Ghastly! A woman's throat emitted an unclear, hoarse sound, her hands placed on her neck, slowly beginning to twist her head. 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, finally twisted into 360 degrees. Every soldier who was in her line of sight or fleeing with their back to her uncontrollably placed their hands on their necks. My hands are out of control. Someone help me. Please, Mom, I want to go home. regardless of how the soldiers pleaded or cried. Their hands, bursting with superhuman strength, began to turn their necks round and round, twisting like a twisted pastry as bones cracked. Even though they were already dead, their hands kept moving until their neck bones completely shattered, artificially elongating a segment. Each neck twisted to the back and meeting the eyes of the woman whose head had twisted 360 degrees. The killing spread, and the soldiers ran in frenzy. "Run, I still need to go back and marry Yelena. I absolutely can't die here." Jill climbed down the steel ladder of the watchtower. Anxiety made his limbs weak, and he fell. As he tried to stand up again, his vision caught a pair of feet, bare, with nails caked in black mud. Looking up, amid Jill's horrified gaze, stood a man dusting off graveyard dirt frantically from his body, reeking of a strong stench of death. God bless, all of you evil spirits, begone quickly." Jill trembled as he pulled out the crucifix from his neck, hoping the Almighty Lord would protect him. Click! The soil around him rose up, layer upon layer of grave dirt piling on, beginning at Jill's legs and gradually covering him. Jill's pupils dilated. Clearly the Almighty Lord could not ensure his safety. Soon, the grave dirt had buried him up to his neck. In his last field of vision, Jill saw evil spirits, one after another, slowly approaching from all around the base. Some had horns on their heads, others had eyes as red as blood, some had long hair that trailed to the ground, and some held lanterns, funeral banners, or urns. Each emitted a chilling aura. With their steps came murmurs, howls, and whispers. The air filled with a suffocating coldness. The night deepened, and in the very last moment, Jill was terrified to see a dragon and phoenix flower sedan chair drifting towards him, which was his final consciousness. Because the grave dirt had completely buried him, turning him into a solitary grave, forever left within this base. Inside the base, Moritz, who had been resting, was already awakened by the alarm. He rushed out in his pajamas, not even having time to change his clothes, and bumped into Field Operations Chief Mahit. "What happened? Has the base been attacked? Is it the Jekka group?" Upon seeing Mahit, Moritz immediately asked about the situation. He had just arrived in a hurry and hadn't grasped the details yet. "Director Moritz, we're in big trouble this time." Field Operations Chief Mahit's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and his palms were still slightly trembling. His eyes filled with an indelible fear. Could it be that the Jekka group has launched an attack and deployed super soldiers? Hurry up and use heavy artillery. Are the enemies attacking from the front or tunneling underground? But no matter how the enemy approaches, we must make them suffer this time. Moritz was not very fearful, his eyes instead burning with anticipation. This base had been designed at its inception to withstand decapitation strikes from the Jekka group. For this reason, it was not only built on a military base but also stored considerable heavy weaponry and housed about 800 soldiers. Filled with traps and mechanisms in every step, those super-thick reinforced concrete and steel doors could lock down, turning the whole base into a fortress. Even to prevent the Jekka group's renowned underground tunneling techniques, fearing that the enemy might tunnel their way inside, the base was equipped with equipment only available to seismic bureaus. Should there be any underground vibrations, the Air Force would be called to drop drilling bombs, shattering the enemy's machinery. This CIA base was essentially a trap. Once Jekka Group dispatched their prized super soldiers, they could easily be ensnared, massively decimating the enemy's forces, leaving them no escape. No matter how strong those super soldiers were, as long as they were trapped inside the base, waiting for the heavy equipment brigade to arrive, countless heavy weapons would fire, rendering the enemy's steel-heavy armor a joke. Facing Moritz's excitement, Mahit uncharacteristically displayed a terribly grim expression. "Director Moritz, it's not the Jekka Group. Was I wrong?" Moritz was startled. In Southeast Asia, besides Jekka Group, who else would dare attack them? "Director, our enemies might not be human." Mahit took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and said, "I don't know if you believe in the existence of fierce ghosts, Director? It's not April 1st today, is it?" Moritz, looking as if he was dealing with an idiot, incredulously said, "You're not going to tell me that fierce ghosts are attacking us, that we're facing a paranormal event?" Mahat nodded emphatically. "Director, that's exactly it. We've encountered ghosts." Ah! For once, Moritz was genuinely confused, unable to believe that the always serious Mahat was joking. "I know you won't believe me. You should see for yourself." By this time, the two had reached the command surveillance room. Mahat pushed open the door and led Moritz inside. B3 sector compromised. I repeat, B3 sector compromised. E6, E6. A fierce ghost appeared here. Don't look into its eyes, you will die. Looking into its eyes will kill you. Everyone, use flamethrowers, some ghosts fear flames. We can burn them to death, we can definitely win. The command center had already turned into a marketplace. Those usually calm staff and commanders were all shouting in rage, many with eyes filled with utmost fear. "Director, look over here." Mahat pointed to the surveillance screens in the command room, connected to cameras in various sectors, providing real-time feedback of the situation within the base. As Moritz stood in front of the monitor, looking at the images on the screen, cold sweat broke out instantaneously. On one of the screens, Moritz saw one of the enemies attacking the base. The enemy was a small child figure, dressed in a red bellyband, holding a ragged cloth tiger in its arms, occasionally letting out a giggling laugh. A seemingly harmless child, but the dozen soldiers facing him were as if facing a great enemy, firing manically. Bullets created holes in the child, revealing cotton and plush inside, as if he was also a puppet. But it was at this moment that the child moved, his mouth splitting to his ears, letting out a growl and stuffing the cloth tiger into his mouth. The next instant, the child disappeared, replaced by a vividly fierce tiger that appeared on the spot. This tiger's body was pocked and pitted, as if it had just been dug out from a grave. It let out a roar and charged at the soldiers, braving a hail of bullets. Even though the bullets riddled it with holes, the creature's movement was hardly affected. Rip! The fierce tiger pounced on a soldier, its sharp claws instantly disemboweling him, hot steaming organs tumbling out. Roar! With another furious roar, the tiger bit into a nearby soldier's head, crushing both the head and the weapon. The tiger, over 3 meters in length, was terrifyingly ferocious. The dozen soldiers here stood no chance against it. And this was just one of the monitors. Moritz quickly looked at others, only to find similarly terrifying scenes of fierce ghosts slaughtering throughout the base. Moritz saw on the screen a fierce ghost dragging a heavy ghost head beheading blade, towering at about 2.2 to 2.3 meters with a grotesque face, wide mouth, and large eyes, ferociously incomparable. With each swing of the ghost head beheading blade, a soldier's head was decapitated, blood spurting sky high. Even from hundreds of meters away, the eerie decapitating ability could not be escaped, leaving no soldier daring to venture into that area. There were also female ghosts in white dresses, pale-faced, with rigid expressions and no arms, their bodies flickering erratically. Every appearance she made was like a flash, affectionately mounting soldiers from behind. Any soldier she mounted would instantly burst into pieces, his arms reassembled as her new limbs. But she seemed dissatisfied with all the arms, discarding them each time after fitting them, and resuming her search for new ones. Similar scenes unfolded across multiple screens. This was definitely not someone playing a prank on him. Seeing this, Moritz finally believed that supernatural events were truly happening at the base. How is this possible? Why are there hauntings here? This isn't a church. Why should our soldiers be the ones to deal with ghosts? Moritz was overwhelmingly shocked, feeling as if his lifelong scientific beliefs were being reshaped today. He, who had never believed in ghosts or deities, only ever used God as a mere figure of speech. He had never believed in the existence of fierce ghosts, but now, witnessing the massacres within the base firsthand, no matter how strongly he believed in science, he understood that this world truly harbored ghosts, powerful enough to kill humans with ease. It was nothing like the movies, with no possession, no myriad of rituals and specific methods required, nor the days of intimidation and suffering before claiming human lives. It was a terrifying existence that could snatch lives in an instant. Immediately send a report to the Pentagon. Inform them about our situation here. Also align the satellites above us. Pull out heavy artillery and prepare to fend off these ghosts. Moritz snapped out of it and immediately gave orders. Upon hearing this, the staff present could only smile bitterly. Director, we can't send any signal out from our base. We've tried all external communication channels and methods. We just can't contact the outside world. Mahet shook his head and delivered a truth Moritz could hardly believe. These ghosts, can they block electromagnetic waves? Moritz understood what this meant. Their base had become an informational island, completely unable to send messages out. I'm afraid it's so. Mahet's face was ashen, although he also disliked admitting it. Among those ghosts were clearly some incredibly powerful entities capable of such unfathomable abilities. The enemy is doing this because they fear our messages getting out, they fear being exposed. Whatever the enemy fears, we must exploit. Moritz paced back and forth in the command center, pondering solutions, and indeed, he thought of one. Immediately arrange for the troops to set off big fires and explosions, and launch air defense missiles. We still have satellite coverage above. I refuse to believe these ghosts can block satellite surveillance too. Those air defense missiles could be detected by radar in Siam here, which might also discover our situation. At the same time, arrange for someone to break through and send a message. Whether it succeeds or not, we must try. Moritz devised a plan to self-destruct, relying on external help. The flames large enough could be clearly visible from satellite imagery above through the heat and light. As long as a satellite orbits over, it would enable the country to be aware of everything happening here. Also, the launch of air defense missiles might also enable radar detection, potentially providing indirect intelligence. Once the Pentagon receives the message, whether they dispatch reinforcements to support them or arrange aircraft for their evacuation, it would be a chance to survive. I'll arrange for someone to handle it immediately. Mahet's eyes brightened. This plan indeed seemed feasible. Although the ghosts were terrifying, with the invincible military of the beautiful country like planes and aircraft carriers called over, if bullets didn't kill, he doubted heavy artillery and missiles wouldn't, including incendiary bombs, chemical bombs, and neutron bombs. They should be able to eliminate these ghosts. On the rooftop of a building within the base, Su Jie sat on the railing, enjoying the night breeze on his face, watching the slaughter unfolding below with satisfaction. Aside from soldiers, this CIA base was home to over 1,300 people, including other agents, various scientific researchers, chefs, doctors, logisticians, and more. However, as these people came into contact with fierce ghosts, their numbers were rapidly dwindling. Fierce ghosts had a high resistance to technological weapons, particularly ordinary infantry arms. To eliminate a fierce ghost wasn't impossible. After all, the fierce ghosts were greatly suppressed by the lack of spiritual energy on Blue Star. But often, killing a single first-grade fierce ghost could come at the cost of dozens or even hundreds of soldiers' lives. With over 30 fierce ghosts, the truly powerful lantern ghost and painting woman hadn't even made a move, while the ghost bride simply watched the chaos like a spectator, exerting effort only to block signals. As a fifth-grade fierce ghost and a ghost king, the ghost bride possessed the ability to disrupt human technology machines. Her power could precisely cover the entire base, blocking all signals, both outgoing and incoming, making it impossible to send or receive any communications. Ha! Quite clever, aren't they? But I can't let you expose my secret by calling for reinforcements. Suddenly, Su Jie's expression shifted slightly, his divine sense washing over like water, and he overheard all the plans brewing in the command room. Next to Su Jie, Han Ruyan stood quietly, the night wind lifting her red wedding dress, which seemed to grow more vividly red as the massacre progressed. The fear and resentment of the dying soldiers were mostly absorbed by the ghost bride. Nevertheless, the ghost bride didn't absorb everything. A portion of the deathly fear and resentment were taken in by the fierce ghosts carrying out the slaughter themselves. It was evident that the ghost bride had some sense of conscience. Watching a group of soldiers run towards the ammunition depot, intending to blow it up, and others heading to operate the air defense missiles, Su Jie pulled out the 10,000 soul banner. A horde of Yin souls screamed and flew out, attacking the soldiers planning to set fire to the ammunition depot. What the hell is this? Ghosts. So many souls. Why are there so many ghosts? We're done for. The soldiers shouted in terror, futilely trying to shoot the Yin souls with their bullets. But it was completely ineffective. In the blink of an eye, the Yin souls passed through their bodies, taking with them their souls and body heat. Thump, thump. Bodies fell to the ground, lifeless, although there were no wounds on them. In the distance, a group of soldiers was operating two close-range air defense missile vehicles. The missile nests in the rear of the carriages had been erected, pointing straight into the sky, ready to launch the air defense missiles inside to attract attention from Siam-deployed radars. Su Jie's gaze shifted towards them, his pupils showing a ring of faint purple. The next moment, two beams of purple light rays shot out, instantly striking the two air defense missile vehicles. The rays melted the steel casing and made contact with the highly explosive warheads inside, triggering a massive explosion. Such a launcher could hold several air defense missiles, which depended mainly on shrapnel for destroying aircraft, with explosive charges weighing up to several kilograms and a projectile weight of over 100 kilograms. Along with the fuel, the resulting explosion was significantly more powerful than the usual 155mm howitzer. As a series of explosions occurred, the shrapnel from the exploding air defense missiles acted like a harvester's blade, tearing and piercing through nearby soldiers, turning them into a bloody mess with limbs and torsos flung up to dozens of meters away. A horrific sight to behold. Having easily thwarted the enemy's attempt to send out a distress signal, Su Jie looked at the time and spoke nonchalantly. "There's 1 more hour. Do you want to go down and have some fun?" Han Rian's eyes were deep as she replied, "Too weak. Not interested." The ongoing slaughter below didn't pique her interest at all. Just with some ordinary fierce ghosts, the base was almost annihilated. If she were to make a move, it would be an absolutely crushing blow. Then let's speed things up. Playing with a lighter, Su Jie took out boxes of gasoline from his storage bag. Behind him, pale corpse hands swiftly emerged from the hem of his pants, grabbing the gasoline cans and pouring them all over the base. Inside the base, the battle became increasingly intense. "Don't turn your back on her. Never turn your back." A company commander kept reminding the soldiers. Yet there were still those who became panic-stricken and, under the fierce ghost's terrifying presence, turned to flee. But it was this very act, turning around, that caused one to place their own hands around their neck, twisting their head 360 degrees around, again and again. In front of them, the figure of the female ghost in white floated in, deliberately adjusting her position so that the soldiers would turn their backs to her. In an instant, several more soldiers were killed, panic spreading even further among the troops. They realized that the bullets from their guns, when fired at the female ghost, were as effective as shooting the air, rendering their firearms nothing more than sticks for kindling. Flamethrower soldiers. Responding to the company commander's call, a few flamethrower soldiers, weighted down by heavy fuel tanks, stood forward and pulled the trigger towards the female ghost. A surge of flame shot out, forming a long jet of fire. The temperature at the mouth of the flame reached thousands of degrees in an instant, the heat waves rolling around them. The female ghost covered in the crossfire let out agonizing screams, her body turning into a burning torch, half of her figure melting away as she darted up and down erratically, fleeing the range of the fire, no longer daring to approach. The nearby soldiers were overjoyed. They had successfully repelled the ghost and heavily wounded it. In another location, accompanied by beast-like howls, the fierce tiger, having breached the first level of defenses, faced a direct hit from the heavy firepower that awaited it. "Fire! Smash this bastard to pieces!" The commander roared, and several rocket projectiles launched quickly, hitting the fierce tiger in rapid succession. Rocket projectiles capable of damaging tanks were also more than the fierce tiger could withstand. Its body was torn into 2 pieces. The next moment, a barrage of gunfire rained down, mixed with the furious firing of heavy machine guns and Gatlings, completely shredding the fierce tiger's body. In the end, as the black smoke dissipated, All that was left on the scene was a cloth tiger torn to shreds. "We've killed this devil, haha, we've won." After a cautious inspection, the soldiers on the scene finally confirmed this fact, and instantly became as excited as if injected with chicken blood. This was the first fierce ghost they had killed, which was enough to prove that fierce ghosts could indeed be killed. In the command monitoring room, it too turned into a sea of cheers, everyone hugging each other with high spirits, overflowing with excitement. "Use more weapons, we can win." Moritz had just started celebrating when Mahat hurried back, reporting, "Director, our plan has failed. The soldiers assigned to start the fire and those manning the air defense missiles suffered an unknown attack. They are now all out of contact. And the soldiers we sent for reinforcements have all perished en route." This news caused Moritz's expression to change drastically, grinding his teeth and saying, "Damn, these ghosts must be under human command. This is no accident." Interrupting external communication channels and preventing them from setting fires and launching air defense missiles, it doesn't look like an accident at all, more like a carefully planned trap. "It's the Jekka group, it must be them." Moritz voiced the fact that he didn't want to believe, but which was the most likely. Although there was no evidence that the Jekka group had orchestrated this supernatural attack, there's a saying that goes, "The biggest beneficiary is the prime suspect." This CIA base was specifically aimed at collecting intelligence on and acting against the Jekka group. In Southeast Asia, other countries didn't dare offend, nor had reason to, so the greatest suspicion fell on the Jekka group. Because only the Jekka group would benefit from the destruction of this base, and even without any evidence, Moritz believed that the attackers must be the Jekka group, the CIA's #1 enemy. Damn, more and more ghosts are showing up. The A2 defensive line has been breached. The target is an evil spirit with droopy ears. Its mode of attack is sound. We can't make any noise or we'll be attacked by it. The second-level defenses have been breached. We need support, I repeat, we need support. Immediately close the inner alloy gates. Don't let them get inside. It's no use. The ghosts are passing directly through walls. Our defensive line has been breached. After a brief moment of excitement, with more and more ghosts appearing on the scene, the situation became tense again. Moritz quickly looked towards the surveillance screens, only to see the group of soldiers who had just killed the fierce tiger ghost now being pursued. Their assailant was a man with a frail body, pale skin, a pair of sunken, hollow eye sockets, a face painted with heavy makeup, dressed in fancy theatrical attire. With every step he took, a soldier would fall, their bodies twisted into bizarre, contorted shapes. Fire! Under the command of their platoon leader, the soldiers tried to repeat their previous victory by using rocket launchers, flamethrowers, and machine guns to shred the ghost. But facing the attack of these soldiers, the frail ghost showed no intention of running away. Instead, any soldier who tried to pull the trigger within 100 meters would suddenly display an eerie smile. They would turn their weapons around and attack their comrades instead. Shit, we're on the same side. They have been possessed by evil spirits. It's the shadows, they're shadows. The soldiers were caught off guard and suffered heavy casualties. Some were ignited into torches, some were shredded by 12.7mm bullets, and others were blown to pieces by rocket launchers. The mutinous soldiers, with their shadows standing upright behind them, with fingers of both hands spread wide as if playing with shadow puppets, controlled the soldiers to carry out the slaughter. These controlled soldiers clearly still had their consciousness, but they were unable to control their own bodies and could only instinctively use firearms to kill their former comrades. "We can't fight them, we really can't fight them." The soldiers despaired. They had just killed a fierce tiger ghost, but now faced with the fierce ghost in costume, the firearms instead turned into weapons that assisted the enemy. These soldiers didn't know that the fierce tiger ghost they had previously killed was just a common first-grade fierce ghost, and the severely injured female ghost was only a second-grade ghost, weakened without the spirit ring. But the ghost in costume they were facing now was a genuine third-grade fierce ghost, far more powerful than the fierce tiger ghost. As second- and third-grade ghosts joined the battlefield, the situation deteriorated rapidly, and scores of soldiers were slaughtered. The shut alloy doors couldn't stop the fierce ghosts. Along their path, all living were killed, leaving behind only cold corpses. Moritz sat dejectedly in his chair, watching the footage on the monitors of the evil spirits and fierce ghosts penetrating deeper into the base. His eyes filled with pain and despair. Jekka Group actually controls such supernatural powers. Sujie, the puppet master behind the scenes, must hold secrets that could pierce the heavens. With myriad thoughts in his mind, Moritz knew he couldn't leave the base alive. He clenched his teeth, grabbed paper and pen, and quickly wrote down line after line of intelligence. Meanwhile, outside the command monitoring room, the night fell, and a crescent moon hung in the pitch-black sky. Fierce gunfire sounded in the corridor outside, as soldiers stationed at the last line of defense began to grapple with the fierce ghosts. But the gunfire was brief, lasting less than half a minute before all the gunshots and screams subsided. Inside the command room, the staff and sergeants drew their pistols for self-defense, their eyes showing panic and unease. In the silence, layers of moss grew on the wall near the door, emitting a strange and foul odor. Click, click-clack. The doorknob turned slowly, and a chilling cold breath drifted into the room. Everyone inside tensed up involuntarily, their hearts pounding. Someone rushed to the door, trying to hold it shut, but it was futile. The door continued to open bit by bit. Moritz stuffed the note into his mouth and swallowed it, hoping that the forensic pathologist would discover the clues in the intelligence when they performed an autopsy on his body. Having done all this, Moritz's expression gradually became calm. He knew his fate and did not draw his pistol to resist. Even the soldiers with various rifles and heavy weapons had been killed. Their mere pistols were as futile as ants shaking a tree. Resistance was sure to fail. He's coming in. Those devils are coming in. Oh God, please protect your people. No, 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 I don't want to be killed by a fierce ghost. The fear in the room peaked, and in this fear, someone even turned their handgun around, stuck it in their mouth, and pulled the trigger, preferring suicide over being brutally murdered by a fierce ghost. When the door was fully opened, everyone inside stared with wide eyes, but outside it was eerily quiet with not a single figure in sight. He's here. The evil spirit is here. Suddenly, a staff member felt something hit the back of his head. When he instinctively looked up, he saw a pair of feet dangling above him. A disheveled fierce ghost with bulging eyes, hanged by a hemp rope from the ceiling, appeared in the command room. The pupils of the staff members contracted, unable to scream, with concentric circles of cyanotic strangulation marks appearing on their necks. They struggled as they were hoisted into the air, as if an invisible hemp rope was winding around their necks. Mahet fired all the bullets in his pistol in one breath, and before could do more, his feet started to leave the ground. He could only desperately grasp his own neck, trying to break free from the invisible thing entwined around his neck. But compared to the abilities of the fierce ghost, relying solely on human strength was truly difficult to contend with. Moritz awaited being hoisted into the air, but even as everyone else in the command room was suspended, he remained unscathed. In his anxiety, he then saw someone walk into the command room. With just one glance, Moritz recognized the person. It was Sujie, the hidden mastermind behind the Jekka Group whom he had been obsessing over. Director Moritz, this must be our first meeting, Sujie said. Sujie approached Moritz, a gentle smile on his face that, combined with the thrashing shadows of the hanged people around him, created an indescribably eerie and terrifying scene. Sujie, so it is your Jekka Group that has been orchestrating all this. How did you manage to create these evil spirits? Moritz asked. Moritz looked at the devil before him, this man who opposed their beautiful country at every turn and had now slaughtered thousands at the base. How we conducted our research is none of your concern. I came here just to see you. After all, opposing our Jekka Group for so long, the least I could do was to escort you on your way. Sujie replied as he sat down in a chair, casually crossing his legs. You may be arrogant for now, but our beautiful country has multiple carrier strike groups, the world's most powerful air force, and military bases all over the globe. Your extreme organization, Jekka Group, disregarding human rights, killing the innocent and brutally violent, will eventually be eradicated by us. Especially you will be captured and publicly tried in our country, and you will regret your actions, Moritz said. Knowing death was inevitable, Moritz did not beg for mercy, but instead shouted angrily and helplessly at Su Jie. Disregarding human rights, killing the innocent, brutally violent? Are you not describing your own beautiful country? Su Jie raised an eyebrow and said contemptuously, hasn't your beautiful country initiated and manufactured countless wars? How many nations and peoples worldwide oppose you? You being a senior CIA official, surely you are aware. Our beautiful country is the beacon of the free world. Although some countries' people have lost their homes, they have gained precious freedom. We brought them advanced systems and civilization, helping them escape ignorance and backwardness. You will never understand this greatness, Moritz retorted without hesitation, not knowing if he truly believed what he said or if he was merely debating. It's nothing more than a conflict of interest masked with noble words. A thug is a thug. Su Jie scoffed and waved his hand dismissively. Forget it. Why am I even arguing this with you? You and your Anglo-Saxon gang coveted the wealth of Jekka Group, and when you couldn't reap your harvest, you obstructed us at every turn. I am a person who doesn't respond to threats or force. The more you try to take what's mine, the more I like to surprise you. Today's base is a little gift for your country, Su Jie added, snapping his fingers. The next moment, Moritz felt his neck being constricted and his body suspended in midair, struggling for breath, instinctively scratching at his neck. Oh, and take whatever's inside your stomach to hell. If you were planning to convey any messages to your bosses, do that in your next life. Su Jie finished speaking. With these last words, Moritz despaired, realizing he could hide nothing from the man before him. After saying this, Su Jie no longer paid any attention to the bodies hanging from the ceiling and walked out of the command room. Outside the command room, countless pale corpse hands swarmed from all directions, tending to the bodies. Throughout the base, all electronic devices and instruments began to smoke and became damaged beyond repair due to the abilities of the Ghost Bride. Han Ruyan gripped the Heavenly Ghost map in her palm as one fierce ghost after another entered it. By the time Su Jie walked out of the base holding the hand of the Ghost Bride and leaving behind, flames erupted violently throughout the base. As the ammunition storage ignited and alerted the police, Su Jie and the Ghost Bride had already vanished without a trace. That night, Siamese City was exceptionally bustling. When news of the incident at the CIA base spread, not only were troops from beautiful country alarmed, but local police, fire departments, and military in Siam were also urgently mobilized, joining the rescue and investigation efforts at the CIA base. The raging fire was only extinguished near dawn, and as rescue teams entered the base, many areas had already turned into ruins. No survivors. I found a body here. Oh, they're all dead. Everyone's dead. When Beautiful Country's troops and Siam's search and rescue team entered the site, they immediately felt a turmoil in their stomachs. Inside the base, thousands of bodies were piled up, forming layers upon layers of corpse mountains. The high temperatures melted human fat, and clumps of charred bodies stuck together, indistinguishable from one another. When the scene unfolded before their eyes, even hardened veterans, seasoned in battle, felt a wave of physical discomfort. Not to mention the police and firefighters from Siam, many of whom vomited up their dinner from the night before. Report to our homeland immediately. A general from Beautiful Country, visiting the Kangxi Air Force Base in Siam, walked to the scene with a mask on. The sights before him had him unable to restrain his anger anymore. After issuing a command, he yelled, "Find them for me. Dig 3 feet into the ground, if necessary, to bring these criminals to justice." Turning his gaze toward the officials behind him, he then said to the mayor of Siamese City and the chief of police, "Gentlemen, Beautiful Country needs your assistance. Please help Siam search for clues." "Certainly, certainly. We have been partners with Beautiful Country for many years, and it is our duty to respond in such circumstances." The mayor of Siamese City was the first to make a statement. With such a severe terrorist attack occurring within their borders, resulting in thousands of casualties, among whom were soldiers and CIA agents. The possibility of the attackers turning against Siam made it impossible to sleep without resolving the case. Our police are already gathering clues. The enemy, capable of such a heinous bloodbath, must be numerous, well-equipped, and involved a large group of elite operatives. They will inevitably leave traces. Once we find any clues, we will immediately notify you. The chief of police, too, thumped his chest in assurance, promising to notify Beautiful Country of any leads so they could handle the situation. As for their police taking direct action themselves, that was utterly out of the question. The thought of attacking a CIA base and killing thousands of soldiers and agents was utterly terrifying. The Siam police would not muddy the waters. Providing intelligence was more than enough to save face for Beautiful Country. While the discussions continued outside, a large crowd of onlookers and media had already gathered. Reporters, armed with cameras and microphones, broadcasted this globally sensational news, instantly making headlines across various countries. Shock! At 1:30 a.m. today, a military base in Siam named Emigalawa, occupied by Beautiful Country, was attacked. The exact casualties are still being tallied, with initial estimates over several hundred. Currently, Siam is gathering clues all over the region, searching for information about the assailants of this attack. Anyone providing effective clues will be rewarded with $500,000. Aircraft carrier battle groups from Beautiful Country, stationed in Japan, are mobilizing and expected to deploy to the naval base in Lion City, presumably in connection to the Emigalawa attack. One news piece after another was instantly shared on social media, causing a significant uproar. Shortly afterward, a White House spokesperson stepped forward, making the news even more explosive. A despicable, shameful, and inhumane vile attack happened. Utilizing our country's desire for peace, the enemy launched a surprise attack on our base in the dead of night. The spokesperson's face darkened with furious condemnation. "Have you found out who the perpetrator is?" a reporter asked eagerly, raising a hand. "Let me answer that. We have initially identified the enemy as an extremist group from Chan Country, actually funded by certain major groups and nations that oppose us, such as JECA Group." Not only the White House spokesperson attended this press conference, but also the CIA Deputy Director, Judith, who now, filled with righteous indignation, took the microphone and made this statement. "JECA Group? Do you mean the one that sells Tianyuan hair growth liquid?" "Yes, exactly them. They use a pharmaceutical company as a front to engage in various illegal and unethical activities. Smuggling Tianyuan hair growth liquid is just one of their crimes. This group has become an actual militarized warlord group in Chan Country, persecuting the people, causing social unrest, and triggering terrorist incidents. This time, it's very likely that the attack on our Emigalawa base involved the JECA Group. We had intensified our efforts against Tianyuan hair growth liquid, a well-known core product of the JECA Group. The enemy, in retaliation against our forces of justice, sponsored this utterly despicable ambush." Judith nodded heavily, her gaze filled with undisguised fury and loathing. Her most trusted subordinate, Moritz, had died in the Siam base. At that time, over 1,300 people were killed. Not only soldiers from Beautiful Country but also carefully trained agents from the CIA. The destruction of the Emigalawa base was a severe blow to the CIA. "This is just your one-sided claim. Do you have any evidence that this attack was carried out by the JECA Group?" A reporter boldly spoke up. Framing and setting traps were not new tactics for Beautiful Country, often distorting facts to shift the target toward their actual intended enemies, with the classic example being the washing powder incident. "We are still gathering evidence, and we will publish it when it's ready." The reporter was spot on. Judith had no evidence. The site was burned, erasing all traces and leaving the investigation fruitless up to now. However, Judith's stance against JECA Group allowed her to pin the blame on them first. Whether it was JECA Group's doing or not, Beautiful Country would use this incident to stir trouble. The reporters in the audience rolled their eyes at the remark, secretly scoffing at it. From the tone of the speech, it was obvious that the Beautiful Country had not obtained concrete evidence. Otherwise, given the nature of the beautiful country, it would have already handed over the evidence to the media for everyone to scrutinize under a magnifying glass, and then publicized it so that it became universally known around the world. Judith didn't care about losing face. She continued, in order to better cope with the deteriorating situation in Southeast Asia and to maintain the security of our allies in the region, the CIA will consult with several countries in the Southeast and rent local land to establish necessary military facilities, set up 5 regional analysis groups, a transnational think tank, and 3 intelligence action bureaus to combat extremist organizations suspected of planning terrorist attacks in Southeast Asia. This news instantly provoked a commotion among the audience. Everyone knows that the reputation of the CIA is not merely bad, if so many permanent bases are established in the East Asia region. It could be that before extremist organizations are dealt with, Southeast Asian countries will be stirred into chaos by their actions, causing widespread harm. You, the CIA, are an external intelligence agency. Openly setting up intelligence offices is an act that disrespects the sovereignty of other nations. A foreign journalist expressed angrily, directly voicing their dissatisfaction. Catching a glance at the reporter's Apple phone, Judith sneered inwardly. Not publicizing doesn't mean we don't collect intelligence. Do you think the leak scandals came from nowhere? The phone you are using right now might very well have an eavesdropping backdoor installed. Of course, Judith switched to a different set of rhetoric out loud, speaking in a grave tone. The actions of the CIA are not for personal gain. Our CIA is a global leader in intelligence gathering, and establishing these permanent bases is also for better intelligence cooperation with other countries, strengthening defenses against those extremist and radical groups. The destruction of the Emigalowa base set off alarm bells for high-ranking officials like Judith in the CIA. Although it is still unknown whether the attack was truly the doing of the Jekka group, it does not seem plausible that if the enemy possessed that kind of super soldiers, they would be able to capture the base without any prior wind or information leaking out. Regardless, the CIA first assumed the adversary had this capability, so they announced the intelligence operations to mix in with other national government agencies. With real-time satellite monitoring up in the skies, they weren't afraid of a recurrence of the Emigalowa base incident. At this moment, the White House spokesperson also stepped forward, took up the microphone and added, "Today, we have formally signed a security agreement with the Asia-Pacific 8-Nation Alliance with Temasek, Luzon, Siam, Jawa, Johor, Chan Country, and Japan, informally known as the 8-Nation Group. The agreement stipulates mutual support among the nations, providing long-term military and fiscal aid to developing countries, and deepening cooperation in the political, financial, humanitarian, and reform sectors to protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of each member of the group, jointly combat extremist organizations, and safeguard international waterways." At the moment, we have already seen initial results. Regarding Chan Country, the beautiful country and the other 6 nations will increase a substantial amount of aid to Chan Country, which includes providing modern military equipment for land, air, and naval forces, assisting with the development of industrial bases, the education and training of military personnel, intelligence exchange, cyber defense, and other safety measures. The moment the spokesperson for the White House finished speaking, the scene erupted into chaos, with people immediately raising their hands to ask questions. "Please speak," the White House spokesperson pointed out, and a reporter immediately stood up. "I would like to ask if this move is aimed at the Jekka group? Isn't this an overreaction?" the reporter asked, suggesting that the beautiful country's huge mobilization to form an 8-nation group seemed to be a prelude to troublemaking. Especially for Chan Country, the beautiful country scarcely gave it a second glance in the past. Devoid of resources like oil and not being a particular geopolitical hotspot, coupled with the country's weak economy and impoverished population, the beautiful country had always turned a blind eye. The ship of freedom and democracy only sails to places that benefit the beautiful country. After much thought, it seemed that only the Jekka Group was significant enough to gain the attention of the beautiful country, as this company was making too much profit. "We are only maintaining the stability and security of the East Asia region, but Jekka Group has indeed committed a series of serious violations of commercial law recently. Therefore, our courts will hold a public trial for the Jekka Group in the coming days. If the party wishes to prove its innocence, then please attend the court to present and explain their case. Otherwise, we will make a decision based on the verdict of the court and impose even stricter sanctions, the White House spokesperson declared, making a requirement for the personnel of the Jekka Group to appear in court. Subsequent questions from other journalists were all about the Eight Nation Group. After about 15 minutes, the news conference was coming to an end, but the public opinion storm had just begun to stir. Once the news of the conference spread, netizens were as thrilled as a provoked run too, gossiping eagerly among themselves. Ha ha! A military base of the beautiful country has actually been slaughtered. This is indeed a cause for celebration, time to set off a string of firecrackers. I heard that over 1,000 people died. What kind of extremist organization was it that could leave the beautiful country soldiers so disheveled and defeated? Well, didn't they say it was the extremist organizations supported by the Jekka Group? At least it was one of the masterminds behind the scenes. You believe what the beautiful country says? It's probably just an excuse to suppress and take over the Jekka Group. The beautiful country has targeted the Jekka Group more than once or twice before. It doesn't matter who did it. I just want to say it was beautifully done. Isn't Jekka Group just a company selling shampoo? They've been painted as an armed warlord. It must be another detergent incident of framing and entrapment. I have the script all ready. First, go to the United Nations to file a complaint, then initiate sanctions legislation, followed by the use of beautiful country's exclusive long-arm jurisdiction to sue Jekka Group for monopoly, smuggling, endangering national security, and such. The Department of Justice then pins the crime on them with the Overseas Anti-Corruption Act, and finally have pharmaceutical giants like Aster Pharmaceutical, Changhua Pharmaceutical, Nori Pharmaceutical, etc. step in to buy out and break up Jekka Group. That's exactly how Alstom Company was taken down. Warning: senior executives of Jekka Group better not come to beautiful country for any hearings or court trials. Watch out or they'll detain you here. Are those above all crazy? Would my great America falsely accuse a little pharmaceutical company? Jekka Group is definitely a disguised extreme militant organization. Beautiful country's sanctions are well placed. Everyone should stop buying Tianyuan hair growth liquid from now on. It's providing funds to an extreme militant organization. Not buying it is impossible. I've become completely dependent on this magical hair growth liquid. I don't believe that beautiful country would rally so many countries just to deal with one company. There must be more to the story. Local people will tell you that beautiful country isn't wrong. I'm from Chan country and Jekka Group started in the Mande region and now has swallowed up the whole East Chin state. They are indeed a warlord, and a mighty one with strong military power. Their strength is top-notch in Chan country. How could even the most formidable warlord wipe out a military base with over 1,000 personnel? How did they move their forces and weapons to Siam? Anyway, I support beautiful country in sanctioning Jekka Group. Tianyuan hair growth liquid is so expensive. If it were managed by conscientious companies in beautiful country, the prices would definitely come down. People on the internet argued back and forth, some supporting Jekka Group, others supporting beautiful country. More than that, neither side helps. They just enjoy a good show and hope for a more intense collision between Jekka Group and the Eight Nation Alliance. In Manchester, Siam. Inside the presidential suite of the city's most high-end hotel, Su Jie was also watching the latest news broadcast about the Emigalawa base incident. Tour guide Miss Nong Lan was sitting by his side, asking Su Jie for his opinion on tomorrow's travel itinerary. Mr. Su, there have been police everywhere in the city lately, all because of this news. But I think they had it coming. Those soldiers from beautiful country always like to bully others. It's time they tasted some hardship. Nong Lan spoke up curiously, making small talk with Su Jie. She had no idea that the man sitting beside her was the true mastermind behind the attack that killed thousands. Su Jie looked away from the TV and chuckled. Oh, you girls care about these things too? My dad has been ranting about it to me. He's a loyal user of Tianyuan hair growth liquid and says he wouldn't want Jekka Group to be sanctioned and fall, because then there wouldn't be such good products available anymore. It would be best if Jekka Group could send someone to beautiful country to explain things, attend hearings and court trials, Everything would be fine once they clear things up. Nong Lan laughed a couple of times, caring more about celebrities, clothes, and makeup. If it weren't for her father's constant talk, she wouldn't have any clue about it at all. She would just skip over the news. Do you think Beautiful Country will give a fair judgment? Su Jie raised an eyebrow, asking with a hint of amusement. After thinking it over carefully, Nong Lan hesitated and said, "They should, after all. They are the leading country in the world, and Western people hold contract spirit in high regard, right? The law has to be based on evidence and facts. They can't just do whatever they want." The law? The very first political lesson I had in junior high school made it crystal clear to me that the law is the expression of the ruling class's will, and that it exists to maintain the order and interests of the ruling class, not for fairness and justice. Su Jie shook his head with a smile. After all, Beautiful Country is a developed capitalist nation, and capital is the ruling class there. Capital seeks profits, and for the West, they are accustomed to accumulating wealth through plunder, and Jekka Group is undoubtedly a lucrative target. Truly believing in a legal judgment is undoubtedly a very foolish act. It's like sheep and pigs offering their necks to butchers, hoping for a moment of conscience. I was never taught that in school. Nong Lan shrank her neck as if she realized she had said something foolish. It's fine, let's go to dinner. We're having a seafood feast tonight. Su Jie didn't mind a girl's opinion, nor was he upset. Considering the commotion Beautiful Country had made, it was clear they had no intention of stepping into the ring themselves. With so many underlings at their command, it was clear they intended to let the underlings trouble Jekka Group. With Beautiful Country, the leading brother, backing off, Su Jie wasn't under much pressure in dealing with the other underlings.